Welcome back to the Bohnfire podcast. I am your host, Mike Bohn, and this is a special edition of the program, one that I never thought I would have to do, never wanted to do, and still trying to figure out why I'm having to do this. But the show is in honor of our great producer, Abbey Subhan Kamikaze, who tragically passed away on December 29th. Just being a shocking situation everyone has had to deal with, all of us in the MMA field, that MMA junkie, and of course his great and lovely and beautiful family. Abbey had 4 children, 23, 18, 5, and 1, survived by his Beyonce Charlotte. And we're all just kind of reeling with this and have been for a little while here, just dealing with the aftermath of such a shocking loss in our lives. And it's been a little bit that we've had to deal with this. For a little bit of context for maybe anyone who's missed the many social media posts, the obituary I wrote on MMA Junkie, Abbey did have a heart attack a few days before Christmas and did his best to fight through it and stay with us. Unfortunately, the damage that was done to his brain throughout the process and the immediate aftermath, on the way to the hospital and all that stuff, we were not able to get him back once the heart strengthened, and ultimately he moved on December 29th. And yeah, it's been a tough thing for everyone to deal with. As I've reiterated, this is a very emotional thing. This podcast, this show, this platform was as much Abbey's as it was mine. He was my partner in crime here. Was the one who encouraged me to do this podcast, and finally, built up enough self-confidence to do so. Here we are, more than 60 episodes in, and every one of them has been a credit to him. Everything you see on here, from the graphics to the thumbnails to the show designs, all Abbey's inspiration, all his doing. I can't thank him enough for the work he put in, the things he did for me personally. And it's been really challenging. As you guys probably saw earlier this year, I lost another good friend in Jordan Breen, and my way of honoring him in a small way, one of the many ways, was to do a show, do a podcast in his honor, shine a light on the type of guy he was. And I felt that was only right to do again for Abbey, as difficult as this has been. Going to at least try to get the show is, if I'm being perfectly blunt with you guys, I don't know what the future of the show is. Beyond this, I know he would want me to keep doing it, but one of the ways we were able to pull this off is it was a collective effort between us and trying to do all the work as much 50-50 as possible to try to get these shows out every week. And with everything I have to do at MMA Junkie and other things going on in life, it's a big burden to take on. I'd like to keep pushing forward and keep bringing you guys great programming. I just don't know what the schedule is going to look like, how often I can release shows and things like that, but we're going to do our best. Obviously, if there's anyone out there listening to this that feels like they have some skill sets and the field of putting shows like this out and doing all the things that come along with it, like socials and graphics and stuff, you can feel free to hit me up directly. I don't know when I'll get back to you, but as I said, the show is as much his as mine, and I feel like a good way to keep honoring him would be to keep going, but I just don't know. So I'm just being as honest with you guys as possible about the realities of that and where we're going to go from here. But for now, I want to celebrate this man's life, give you guys some insights. I'm going to have a lot of great friends from the media on here, a very special UFC champion towards the end. We're not only going to talk about Abbey, but I know he would want to give some actual, more real MMA content for you guys. So we are going to preview every UFC weight class going into 2026, the top storylines, the fights we want to see most. And I think that's a good way to kind of spin things forward, talk about the future, and just talk about Abbey. I mean, this man spent years sitting behind a computer screen, editing videos of me, making me look better as he did so many others. And if this can be a small way of returning the favor, even though he won't get to see it in this format, that's what I'm going to do. Abbey was a very special guy, and we both had a strong commitment to MMA. We would gladly share hotel rooms on the road to cover events, not because we wanted to, but because, that was the most practical thing to get us both to events, to gyms, and we're willing to kind of make that sacrifice of personal space in order to bring you guys good content on here and on MMA Junkies. So yeah, it's there's no words to properly contextualize this man, but we're going to do our best here with the show. And I guess just before we move on to the next portion here, there is a GoFundMe link in the description and the QR code popping up on the screen now. And anything you guys can do to put donations towards that, it is much needed. As I said, Abbey had 4 children, 2 of them extremely young, now a widow who's having to deal with all the real life consequences of a huge loss like this. So anything you guys can do, from a penny to anything more, it's truly appreciated by everyone. So love you, Abbey. This one's for you, and I will be right back on the other side of the break with many familiar faces, great guests, and sharing some stories, sharing some tales about our dearly loved good friend Abbey Subhan. Stick with us. Joined now by Petesy Carroll from Uncrown. Petesy, I think you're one of the people who I remember first having memories on the road with Abbey, traveling, especially some of those European events, man. Just how are you doing, man? How are you handling everything?
Yeah, it's been a tough Christmas. I think at one stage we thought we were kind of out of the woods here, and then got terrible news on Christmas Day, obviously. Love Abbey very much. One of my same with you, like one of my best friends in the industry. And as you said, I met him at his very first credentialed event for the UFC, which was London in 2014. I only know that because Sandhu said earlier this week in the group we're in, and I was like, well, that's when I met him, like his very first UFC event. And it was funny because I don't know. Well, I do know. In the US, it was very much the same as in Europe, where we were all there for the same goal, but there was a lot of competition between the different outlets that were showing up. There might have been some rivalries going on, but Abbey just didn't apply to that whatsoever. Like, he was just everyone's friend. And speaking to so many people this week, your colleagues, Farah, yourself, Sandhu, and then the Irish guys, obviously, and he really was the glue that brought us all together. Like, he brought everyone together. Everyone wanted to hang out with Abbey, so unfortunately, we had to get through the rest of. We had to put up with each other to do that. Of course, I'm joking. We get on very well, but he was a fantastic guy. He is. There's not a lot of people who come from the European MMA scene that have such an impact and hold down a job the way he did with MMA Junkie. And the thing that's most interesting to me is everybody has him as a very close friend. Like, he introduced his family to people. He shared so much of his life with everyone. Abbey would know far more intimate details about my life than most people in the MMA media, as I'm sure all of us share with him that kind of thing, because that's the kind of guy he was. We know his family, obviously, from being in the house. I know you have too. And it's so sad because of all of the people he's leaving behind. And yeah, man, I'm going to miss him so much. I think he was a brilliant human being as well as a brilliant media person, one of the best the European scene will ever have. And just tremendously saddened by the whole thing, Mike, as I'm sure you are.
Yeah, no, it's been real tough, man. I mean, it's hard to even do the show, and as I've said to a few other people, his fingerprints are so much across all the stuff, all these assets, all these things you're seeing, the thumbnails. These are all his designs, his inspirations. So
that's what I was going to say. It's the same thing from like the Bohnfire that was Abbey, right? Like, he was the one pushing.
That was our thing. We were business partners in this, so we were just trying to build something of our own. And it's tough. I mean, this is all going to be in dedication to him. Every episode going forward. It's like I said, can't do any of this stuff without him. But yeah, definitely big missing piece there as well. Just having him to lean on and his help and everything with all these things.
Yeah, he like, that was the thing with me. He would be constantly onto me about doing a podcast. And I was like, I don't, I'm lazy, I don't know what to tell you. He was like, you should call it the crack, because you always say, what's the crack?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah. And he's like, so what else would you need to do that? And I was like, I don't know. Like, you need loads of stuff to do a podcast. Next day, there it is there. The logo he made for the thing immediately. And then in the end, this ends up being part of the package that Yahoo Sports Boy for Uncrowned, and it's just the stuff he did. Like he could think way bigger. Ooh, he could think way bigger than any of us could. Like, I think he had a lot of. He was such a good motivator, right? Like he'd make you feel 10 foot tall, and such an optimistic guy, such a positive guy, and yeah, like, I mean, what would we be doing without him? We're so lucky that he put us on these paths, both of us, Mike.
Yeah, really. I mean, I didn't even put two and two together there. Yeah, we both of our podcasts are basically inspired and helped, created by him, man. Jeez. And I know a lot of other people had influence over, their work. He did a lot of stuff for them. So at least we know, the legacy is going to continue on forever in that regard. And I'm so glad we got to do something together too that was kind of like inspired by him. What was it, London 2022?
Oh man, it was the best. Like, and that was like the best event. Like, it was one of my favorite events because the pandemic had shut down London 2 years before, and then this golden era emerged, and then we're in Abbey's, like in Southall, where Abbey's from, and he brings us to the Prince of Wales, which, like, he used to tell me, like, this place does amazing Indian food that also has spectacular points of Guinness. Didn't believe it, but I'm a believer now. Like, I mean, what a place, unbelievable.
Yeah,
I think we're the only white dudes in the place.
yeah. And I think we were on about like 2-3 hours sleep after the event. We had to go there. I was on my way to the airport, and yeah, we did like a little video. I think it was like our 3 stars of the event. I'll put some B-roll of that over this so the people can see what we're talking about. It was like a hybrid food/event review piece, and only Abbey could make that like digestible and no pun intended, like interesting for the viewer. So that was a great one. I'm glad we got to do that together.
Yeah, Sandhu came and everything. This Sandhu came late, right? Oh
yeah,
my god, it's perfect.
Yeah, photo that I'll put up on the screen of the 4 of us with our pints of Guinness there.
Fantastic points as well. Yeah, God rest him, man. Horrible stuff.
It is, and it makes it so hard to transition. But I know, like, for the sake of the show and everything, he would want us to talk about MMA and sport and everything. Like, not make it all about him, even though that's what the show is about. But in the randomizer for the weight classes here, I gave you heavyweight, which did feel a little perfect for you, Petesy. I mean, I know you have a great relationship with the Aspinall family and Tom Aspinall. I asked everyone for a storyline and a fight. Let's start with your storyline. I'd be surprised if it didn't revolve around Tom Aspinall, but what's your storyline to watch for 2026 at heavyweight?
Well, just the reinvigoration of the division in general. It's funny because this has been a bad time for Tom, obviously, in terms of public perception and stuff with the oh my god, he can't go, like, he can't continue because his head's been used as a bowling ball. He's gouged his eyeballs out. Oh my god, this guy can't continue. What a shame. But we all know what the story is there. Of course, like, as far as I'm concerned, he definitely shouldn't have continued. His eyes are still in jeopardy now, but fingers crossed, toes crossed, and he comes back to fight. I think the division is a lot more interesting because this lowered perception of what Aspinall is, a heightened perception of what Cyril Gane is, and also a heightened perception of what Waldo Cortez Acosta is. Suddenly, these guys who we were scoffing at last year, like, these are the best guys in the division. A lot of people think they're going to beat, like, a lot of people suddenly believe, like, Waldo can give Tom a good fight. Cyril obviously did very well in that one round of fighting that we saw, or whatever it was, how many minutes it was. So a lot of people have a renewed interest in that fight. I think the build up to that fight would be a lot more interesting the second time around. And as well as that, like, will Pereira's move to heavyweight hinge on the fact of Jones's return happening? Or is it, in fact, just a goal? I want to go up and fight at heavyweight. It could be a spectacular year for heavyweight if things go the way they may go. I know that has not been the case in the last few years. We were hoping for a lot of good things, but I really do think the division has become so much more interesting because of what happened to Tom. And also, you can't help but think, what is that going to be like for Tom? This is the first time in his UFC career where we're like, people are casting aspersions and people are having doubt on him. Every other time it's been like, look at this phenom. We've never seen a guy like this, a heavyweight, before. And of course, he's physically still the same guy, but mentally, what does that do to you when you go online and you see, Eagle 747258 saying, Tom Aspinall, Cyril's gonna beat the shit out of this guy, or whatever it is. I don't know if we can curse. I'm sorry, but yeah, I can. I'm okay.
You're good.
Thank God. Yeah, you would have had to give me a disclaimer before I came on if that was the case.
It's an internet show. We're fine.
Yeah, but I'm genuinely intrigued by it. I am intrigued by what impact this has on Tom. Even from a media perspective, Mike, you know better than anyone that you're at every single event. I am not as committed to the cause as you. But Tom does every interview going. Like that guy will sit there for hours upon hours and do every bit of media, and he's just just a lovely guy. I
Mhm.
think this whole thing has changed how he feels about a lot of entities, including the media, um, including like I don't know about the fan base, but he's certainly seen a lot of shit being talked about him. So I'm interested to see how he carries himself on fight week. And there is, as we've seen in that Instagram reply just before Christmas to Cyril Gane, there is
Mhm.
real nettle there now. He is pissed off with Cyril Gane. He believes that Cyril Gane deliberately cheated in their fight. So much intrigue around that fight, how it's going to be officiated, everything, man. I'm really looking forward to that, which is a stark contrast to how I felt last year going into that fight.
Yeah, very true. How worried do we need to be about just the state of his eye, though? You think I think in the UFC's perfect world, this fight probably would have, maybe headline the first Paramount card if like it had worked out as their options dwindled down. I know they talked about an interim title fight on that card at one point, which makes you, think they aren't expecting him back super soon. But yeah, like how long does this drag out to the point where we get really worried or maybe have to start thinking about other fights, interim fights, all those things?
I think, we have a lot to worry about in terms of champions next year with Topuria's situation as well.
Yeah.
Um, Tom is as he explained to Ariel when he's on, he's been going through a lot of checks, a lot of protocols. He couldn't drive his car for a long time,
Yeah.
so it's a real peripheral vision issue. And one thing about his father Andy and Tom, like they're very intelligent people. Like they will not put him in a fight if he's jeopardized in a way. Like they will not be like, oh, you have 75% vision on that right hand side. It should be okay. He will wait to be 100%. His eye is improving, but it's horrific shit that is happening. Like he's having to get injections in his eyeballs, um, all
Surgery.
types. Man, can you imagine someone coming at you with a needle and it's
No.
going right? I put me
I
on
don't
this.
want to. It took me 34 years to get the courage to put contacts in my eyes. And then people are like, "Oh, get laser eye surgery." Go, absolutely not, let alone getting a freaking needle. I think I'd just retire and not fight anymore. That sounds less agonizing.
That's what I do. If I was, I think I even said this to him. I'd be like, needle in the eye. No, it's okay. Guess I'm not going to see anymore. But look, it was a good run.
Yeah, I mean it's scary too, right? If he does get in a fight, like we can talk about fouls and eye pokes and people trying to, fight smart and all those things, but with the open finger gloves, it's forever a possibility. You just wonder what would happen if a finger accidentally sneaks its way in there, not against Gone, against anyone in the
Yeah.
future of his career, how he'll react to that and how it'll go. Because I imagine there's a little bit of mental trauma there.
How will they officiate? Right. So I think we agree that there's been a clear change in how even outstretched fingers are being policed in the UFC since then.
Yeah.
What does a John Jones fight look like if he comes back? Like, I
I
mean,
mean,
does 30 seconds into the fight, like, right, call it off. You're disqualified.
if I'm fighting John Jones in the wake of this, like you better be in that locker room with your team and everything before like on the official being like, hey dude, like come on,
Yeah.
you better be on top, on top, on top of this stuff. Cause yeah, like it's a fear from the outset. So yeah, it's Tom is obviously the champion. He controls the narratives and the headlines of this division. So well, it all kind of goes off the back of him. But I also kind of tasked you with the fight that you want to see most at heavyweight in 2026. Does it revolve around Tom, or is there something else sneaky for us?
No, it's Tom, but it's not Cyril Gane. It's Pereira,
Mm,
and I know people will be like, well, Jones Pereira. Did you see the Stipe fight, man? It's not like it is not the John Jones we used to know. And look, he's brilliant. I look. I don't think he's the greatest fighter of all time. I think GSP is just purely because of the drug failures. I think that has to impact sport. This is a sport at the end of the day. I get it. If he's your go, I get it. That's no problem. But I think the best fight you can make a heavyweight is Pereira moving up against Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall, this guy is a generational talent. I will say it forever. Like we did not see a guy move like this a heavyweight really ever. And if this IPO costs us an era of Tom Aspinall as heavyweight champion, I will be absolutely disgusted. But that's the fight for me, Mike. It's Aspinall v Pereira. I'm sorry for the Jones fans out there. I just don't think he is what he used to be. He is still brilliant. He's still one of the greatest ever, with the asterisks, of course. But that is my heavyweight fight for 2026.
Yeah, I don't disagree. The Jones thing is so interesting. I don't know if we're going to get him back, but I'm just looking at the record right here. February 8th, 2020 is when he fought Dominic Reyes, and we are getting close to February 8th, 2026 here. 2 fights in between then in 6 years. So what are we doing here?
Yeah, my God. I mean, and then fight, like, I mean, all right, Stipe, he put on a bit of a show, but the Gan fight was over very quickly. Like, that was
2 minutes and 4 seconds.
That speaks to his presence, though, right? Like, Gan never looked like that before in a fight. And McGregor used to do this to guys, too, where they're just like, shit. You know, it's him. It's the guy from TV. I'm just going to beat the shit out of me right now. Like, I think that is what happened with Gan. It was just rabbit in the headlights. And as Aspinall was saying to me in the lead up to both his father and son were saying to me, there is no way that will happen again. Yeah. Like, there is no way. Like, everyone's going to say, oh, just double leg him and choke him. Like, he's like, there's no way this is going to be that easy.
The crazy thing about the sport, Petesy, fighters can improve sometimes or learn lessons from their losses. I know it's crazy. It's a crazy theory, but it is possible for some of these guys. So we will see. Heavyweight, definitely a big thing to watch. I just saw Joe Rogan dropped a podcast with Gable Steveson, and he's talking all about that. And Joe Rogan's giving him all the praise, saying he could be top 5 right now or maybe a champion. That may be true. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think we get him in 26 in the UFC, or is that going to be too soon still?
I don't know. I think you could put him in there now, but I don't know about top 5. Like, I've made this mistake before. But experience is such a huge factor that people don't really think about. He could be a top 5 athlete, no doubt about it. Top 2, top 3, top 1. Maybe he's the best athlete in the division, but fighting in there, so many things can happen, as Tom Aspinall will attest to. I'd do a nice slow build. What they kind of did with Bo Nickel and early Shemaev, that's what I'd love to see.
Yeah, and look at Bo Nickel. I mean, he threw him in there 7 fights in against a guy with 30 plus fights, and look what happens. So it gets real when you're in there with someone who's experienced and has been through this game a lot and knows how to prepare for a fight. So it feels like a bit of a stretch. Let's not do the Russian Gable Steveson thing, because last thing we need is to screw up the trajectory of a heavyweight prospect. We need as many of those as possible, Petesy.
I couldn't agree more, man. I couldn't agree more.
All right, man. I appreciate you being here. It's always kind of hard to transition out of these segments, but I appreciate you reflecting and looking ahead. I know this has been a tough time for us all, but hopefully this is a bit of therapy and gets us to talk about our boy a little bit here.
I'm just glad we didn't cry. We got through the whole thing. That was what I was worried about, and that's what I'm going to be worried about every time. Thank you, Abbey. But listen, man, I'm really sorry for your loss. I know how close you two were, and he is an absolute diamond of a lad. And this one's look. You've had a hard year with Jordan as well, with Tom. I was far closer to Abbey than I was either of those guys, even though I got to hang out with Tom and Jordan before. Two brilliant people. But it's been a rough year. 2025 has been a rough year for our industry. And look after yourself, man, because it's a tough one for all of us.
Yeah, thank you, man. Yeah, I hope I don't have to do one of these tribute podcasts ever again, hopefully, or at least never anytime soon. So I appreciate you being here, Petesy. It means a lot.
All the best, Mike.
Joining us now, a longtime former colleague, man, who I did many road trips with, John Morgan. Man, it's been tough, but you're someone in the aftermath of this. Just thought about you so much because we had so many great memories with Abbey. I think the first event we ever covered together in Europe was where we met Abbey and Chamatkar Sandhu and everything. I will never forget that snowy photo of us doing a preview out in massive amounts of snow in Stockholm. It's been tough, man. How are you?
I'm good, man. It's definitely been tough, man. I'll do my best to hold it together to talk today. Did a show earlier in the week and wasn't able to hold it together so much, man. But I think everybody kind of understands that, especially anybody that was close by with Abbey, man. Just what a great dude he was, and what a real loss this is. Not just in the MMA community or in the media community, but just like as a human, you know what I mean? Like I feel like there's not enough like just good, positive people and positive energy in the world. And when you take somebody out of it that was like that shining light around you, it sucks, man. And so this has been hard on a lot of levels, man. But try to hold it together a little better than I did on the MMA Roadshow, man. That was tough.
No, and you and Ken Hathaway, who we had on here as well, did such a great job honoring him. And yeah, it's an emotional thing to listen to, but I don't know, I find this cathartic a little bit as well to kind of actually talk about it, and especially in a format that, I know he listened to your show every single week. He was a big part of making this podcast what it is and getting it off the ground and stuff. So as I've said to I think everyone, like, his fingerprints are all over this industry, I feel like, and that's the part that I think makes it so difficult, is you can't really compartmentalize things because the memories of stuff is literally everywhere you look, especially on the work side.
Yeah, and it's not going to go. I mean, and I guess there's a silver lining, and that means it's not going to go away right away. You know what I mean? That, like, I guess in some ways, like, his legacy will live on, but it's always going to hurt a little bit, right? Because you're going to get those reminders, and you are right, man. I think it's so good to talk about it. Like, I think, when I sat down with Kenny, and that was the first time I had really had a chance to just openly discuss everything outside of just me and my wife here at home, and I think that's why the emotions got so heavy. It's hard to talk about, and it's going to take a long time. It's going to take a long time, man. I haven't gone all the way through all the photos yet, but I plan on doing it at some point, and that's going to be tough. And yeah, we move forward. I hope, and like I said, and I said on the road show, and I'll say it again here for anybody that didn't listen here. I hope, the main thing that I hope is that, like, his family and sees how much love and care and respect there was. You know what I mean? Again, not that it's going to make it any better for him, not that it's going to make their pain any less, but, like, I just think that when you can be proud of your son, when you can be proud of your husband, when you can be proud of your father, you know what I mean? And you can know, like, how well loved and respected they were. Hopefully that at least helps in the grieving process of knowing just what an absolutely spectacular human being was. Because, Abbey, for as much work as he did, he really kind of preferred to, like, stay behind the camera, right? Like, I mean, he'd be in the room with us doing shoots or doing recording or whatever, and he was always like, I'm not really going to jump on. So there's probably a lot of people that, while they've seen a lot of his work, never really got a chance to talk to him and know him the way we do. So, I hope through all this horrible process that at least that message has gone out there, and then it helps his family in some way.
Yeah, I love that you said that too, and that's kind of something I wrote, like, right when this happened, is he has 4 kids, and the 23-year-old and the 18-year-old got to obviously experience a lot, but he has a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old that are aren't gonna remember so many things, or especially in the case of the 1-year-old, and hopefully one day something like this, they can get an appreciation or a greater understanding of what type of guy he was, because he was just such a good friend to all of us and taught us so much. And yeah, this is not something I want to be doing. I mean, this is the second time I've had to do this year, like with Jordan Breen as well. These aren't episodes of the show I want to be doing in any circumstance, but I know that, it's important down the line. We're going to look back on this. Like, there's no one else for MMA Junkie I want to write that obituary, because I knew, as hard as it was, if I look back a year, 5 years, like, it would bother me if anyone else's byline was on that story. And yeah, it just still doesn't even feel real through that. And yeah, man, like, could say so much about all those things. I guess, was that trip in Stockholm that we did, was that your first time meeting him, or had you met him prior to that on another event?
No, I think I to be honest with you, I don't even remember the day after. I feel like I've known the guy forever, you know what I mean? Yeah. But I just remember being in the press room, and seeing him and Sandhu work together and just instantly getting that vibe. I mean, you think about it, like, that's the whole way MMA Junkie grew, right? It's like me being in press rooms and seeing people whose, like, vibe I respected and their work ethic I respected, and I was like, we got to go get that person. We got to get that person on the team. We got to get that person. We got to add Matt Erickson. We got to add Mike Bohn. We got to add, even Steven Morocco in the early days. We got to go get Nolan King. We got to go get Farah Hannoun. We got, you know what I mean? Like, that was it, because it was seeing him. And Abbey was one of those right away that, like, man, the work ethic was there. It's that grinding mentality, somebody that's not afraid to come in and put in the work. As man, it's not, everybody wants to go to the events and have fun and, this is great, man, I'm at a UFC event, I love the sport, it's amazing. But it's like, yeah, and it's also like a 14-hour work day if you're doing it the right way, you know what I mean? And at least if you're doing it the MMA Junkie way, you know what I mean? It's like, you're going to be there, you're going to talk to everybody, we're going to turn all those videos around. And he wasn't afraid to do that, he wasn't afraid to put in the work ethic side by side and have a positive attitude. And I've seen a lot of people come out and just talk about how, positive of a role model he was, but you could get that right away, because look, those press rooms sometimes are a little competitive, right? You know what I mean? Everybody's trying to make sure they get noticed and they get their space and they get their content, but he wasn't. So that just always stood out for me from the beginning. I was like, that's a dude that I want to work with. And obviously we got to do that, and it started out in part-time ways and little freelance hirings here and there. And and then, progressed all the way to full time. And I was proud that he was able to progress, and then I was able to help a little bit, because again, it's such a good dude. You want to be able to help him a little bit along the way, and hopefully I was able to help along the way.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's why I thought it was, so important to have you on here, not only to, talk about the friendship side, but I feel like you were kind of responsible for giving him and getting him onto that platform. I know, Dan Stupp, the founder of MMA Junkie, was integral as well. I tried to reach out and get him on. He wasn't available, but, as much as like I think about how he got here and all the relationships that were built from him at MMA Junkie, like you kind of noticing the talent and vouching for him. I'm sure he would have found his way anyways, as skilled as he was, but still, to give him the first opportunity is huge.
Well, you need a break. Like you said, he would have made it somewhere, but I was just proud I got to be that guy to say, hey, I want you to be on the MMA Junkie team. And you're so right, man. Dan Stupp, I have so much love and respect for Dan Stupp, man. That dude was such an incredible boss and such an incredible leader, to work with. And he put a lot, and he saw the value in it. That was that time when we started to really see, like, dude, the UFC is going global. Like this organization, it was very clear, like, from the early days. I think I first signed on full time in 2008, and then around like 2011, 12, when Gannett purchased USA Today, you could really see, that's when you started doing like 7 Brazil shows a year for the UFC, and you started to see, like, hey, we're actually going to need. Yeah, I went to all of them, man, like 30 trips. But you started to see, like, hey, we're going to need international talent. We're going to need people, because as fun as it is, and now that you're the one that's getting to handle more of the travel than anybody else on staff, it's like, it is cool. Like I've always said, like, you get to see the world on somebody else's dime, and that's awesome. But you're also away from home a lot. And as your marriage grows and as you become a father yourself, you're going to see how much you're like, I want to be home. I don't want to miss it. So we needed international talent. And so, to be able to identify somebody like Abbey, who I thought just fit our brand and our mentality exactly right, like passionate about the sport, wanting to do things for the right reason. It was awesome. And yeah, dude, we've got a decade plus of WhatsApp messages between each other, and a bunch of memories on the road, a bunch of Nando's trips, and a lot of good memories, man. As emotional and sad as this all is, I try to think about a lot of the good memories, man, because we had a lot of good times together.
No, for sure. And as I've said to a few people, like I think I spent more time with him this year than I was ever able to. We spent 11 days in Florida doing some great stuff at some gyms, and then he came to my wedding, and it was just I'm very grateful for that we got to experience that. And as you said, as you grow older, you kind of lose less of the interest to do all that. I know he was actually just like an hour ago closed on a house, which we should be much more excited about here, but we're going through this whole thing. I know, like, he was so excited to come see that, and just grateful for what we had, but feel sad about what we lost in many different ways. So
it's just the thing that stood out and always will stand out about me before, and I'm sure you feel the same, because I just don't know that I've ever had such a positive influence. I don't know that I've ever had somebody give me more like affirmative messages and positive messages, and just like big up in your friend, you know what I mean? Because I know we all have like self-doubt, we all have like wondering if the effort we're putting in is paying off or being noticed or whatever. But when you have somebody that's just so supportive of every effort and every move you make, man, I feel like that's rare in life, because everybody's busy trying to carve out their own thing too, man. I mean, I'm as guilty of it as anybody. Like, I'm running my own little rat race, you know what I mean? So how do I take the time necessarily to shine on my friends and my colleagues when I see them do something good? Or are you so focused on just what you're doing that you forget to like give some love and give some respect and give some support to those around you? And I feel like that's what he was so damn good at. You know what I mean? I got one kid, he's got 4. Like, bro, I ain't got no time with one kid. I don't know. He's got it with 4, and he's still finding time to send positive messages and, hey, I saw this and you did great, and et cetera, et cetera. It's just, that was something awesome, man. People don't check in on each other enough sometimes, I think, and encourage each other enough. And he was so damn good at that. And that's going to be missed, man.
I love that so much. That's a great bow to kind of put on that part of it. And then, yeah, I mean, you taught me how to do a lot of video stuff, as did Ken Hathaway, but I know he helped you out in that regard. And going beyond the basics.
Bro, he was the first person to ever teach me how to video edit, man. Like, that was the first person to ever like sit down. And I think about it, like, honestly, that could have been at a detriment to himself, right? Because like, we were paying him to help do some video editing, right? Yeah. Like, we're freelance. So for a freelancer to come to a guy that is hiring him and be like, you know what? I'll teach you the skill that I'm doing because I know I'm not going to be there all the time. Like some people, like they'd hoard that. Be like, teach you how to video edit, you say, and then what would you need me for per se moving forward? You know what I mean? Like you could be selfish and be like, I could teach you, but it's just tough. It's hard. Yeah. But no, he sat down and taught. He was giving of his skills, and again, other people in the press room and around him, like there's no secrets. It's like, hold on, let me help you fix your aperture here. You know what I mean? Like, dude, the reason your videos are coming out a little dark or the reason your audio is a little jacked up is this. Fix this setting, tweak that. Like, how cool is that? Like, you could easily be competitive and just be like, bro, I don't know. I don't see it. Don't know. I don't know why your video looks like shit. Not my fault. You know what I mean? But instead he's like, let me help you. This is what was wrong. Like, that shows you a lot about somebody's character and their confidence in themselves, that they don't feel like they gotta, hoard something to themselves in order to build themselves up. You know what I mean? They can still share their knowledge, share their expertise, and know that their own skill level will be enough.
Yeah, and I think we all need to take a little piece of that and carry it with us forward, and because what goes around comes around in that regard. So definitely well said. One of the memories that stands out is our famous UFC Dublin trip where we had like 7 people there, and I think you were courteous enough to try to go get us beers from the bar and carry them all yourself, and you were about one step away from the table when the entire tray went tilt and everywhere, about 8 or 9 beers, and I think he just jumped right up and was like, all good, let's go back and get another round here and maybe bring 2 people to carry them back this time.
Oh, that was funny, man. There's so many of those little things that, like, to be like, well, what's your greatest memory or what's your greatest story? And dude, I had totally forgotten, to be honest. I was talking with Kenny after we taped the MMA Roadshow that he was working for the Mac Life as a freelancer, and then that whole fiasco and situation.
Yes, the Conor McGregor bus incident day. He did not open the door, for anyone out there wondering. He was guilt-free in that scenario, but still felt the impact.
But he thought he was going to be banned forever. You know what I mean? Like, obviously they were banned, and luckily, like I went and talked to security and we went to bat for him and all that and said, listen, he was there. He had nothing to do with it. But, I'd forgotten that. But it's all these little things. So, like, I'm sure people, when they want to hear stories, tell me about the time. I mean, one thing I haven't seen mentioned a lot in his obituaries, remembrances, like the MVP documentaries, man. Like that was a really good early project. So I'm sure people want to hear like stories like that. But it's the stories of dumb stuff like me dropping around the beers and stuff that I'm going to remember, or him. Simon Head will know the story of Free Solo, which was a horrible decision on my part of drinking like an entire half bottle of whiskey. It's just little things like that, just dumb stuff that we had together in those little silly moments. And again, he was always there with a smile on his face and having fun with it, man, and being supportive. And we had so many good times. And those are always the stories that'll stand out to me more than the coverage of this event or the interview that we did or the whatever. That stuff that's work product and it's good and it goes, but it'll always be like the personal memories and friendship that'll always like hold closest,
For sure. And well said on the MVP thing. As all the stuff is on the MMA Junkie YouTube, some stuff listed in the obituary. But yeah, like such great work. You saw MVP post something. You saw Norbert Nirvani Jr. post something about the work they did with that at London Shoot Fighters. Yeah. And then people will hear from Kayla Harrison later on the show talking about our Florida trip and kind of the impression he made on her in their brief time together. So it's all very nice to hear. But yeah, man, we could go down memory lane here forever. But I know, he would always say kind of spin things forward, talk about the sport that he loved to listen to the show, your show, all these shows about. So as I've been saying to everyone, went through a randomizer on the weight class here, assigned it to each person. You ended up with welterweight, John. What intrigues you most? What's the storyline that you're watching come 2026 in the welterweight division?
Well, the storyline for me is really kind of the new generation, right? The rise. I mean, this feels like a division that really has multiple, because there's times in a division where one new name comes in and you're like, oh, that's really intriguing, I want to watch it. But I mean, I feel like Ian Machado Gary still qualifies as kind of that new era. Obviously Michael Morales is incredible on the rise. I'll throw Carlos Prates in there as well, even though he's more of a veteran. He's kind of new to the top level of the division. And then you even got to throw in, like, I think Shavkat still qualifies as kind of like the new era because he's been out for so long. We thought he'd be a lot more established. So that to me is really the storyline I want to see. Is I feel like this is really a nice churn time for the division. And you need that every now and then, right? Because you see the same athletes. And it's awesome because you see dominance and you see links, but it's cool when you don't have the same names over and over, when it's not the same. and I don't want to take away from anybody who works their ass off to make it to the top 5 and stay there forever. You know what I mean? But like when it's, those same 5 names at the top of any division that just keep mixing and matching, it gets a little bit stale at times. And so I'm anxious for that. I'm anxious for that rise. And I'll throw in this, and I don't know that necessarily correlates, but the one thing that is like Islam Makhachev at the top of the division right now is cool. But I am kind of like past the 2 division thing. Like I get why everybody, like, I can't fault any athlete that wants the 2 division thing, especially, man, going back to Conor McGregor, that 2 belts over the shoulders, man, like that's a damn good look. And I get it as that's a sign of greatness. But, I look at like Merab Dvalishvili and what an incredible year he had. But he ended up losing, right? And I think it just goes to show you like how hard it is to do what Anderson Silva did, John Jones, George St. Pierre, those Dimitri, the lengthy title runs. I'd like to see that. So I'll be interested to see, because I don't think Islam's that long for the welterweight division. So I'll kind of throw that in, is that like I want to see this development of the new era, and then I want to see if one of these guys that is the new era can become champion and get 6, 7, 8 title defenses in a row, not get 2 title defenses and then say, I'm going to 185, baby. I got to get this champ status. You know what I mean? So that's the short-term storyline I think I'm looking at, and then also kind of the long-term with the welterweight division.
Yeah, I like that. And so that said, I'm guessing the fight you need to see in 2026 is not Islam versus Kamaru Usman.
It's not, but here's what's funny. So the fight that I want to see does go entirely against my storyline. Is that I actually want to see Kamaru and Bilal Muhammad. Like I want to see that, right? Because I feel like, and I get it that, Kamaru might not be interested in it. And I understand his argument for his greatness, and he was an incredible champion, and I get it. But for those 2 guys, there's not really other fights that I necessarily see like shining out there that I have to see for either one of them. So when that's the case, when I don't feel like I'm being robbed of another fight, and then you add in the history and the tension and the trash talk that would be ahead of that. So not only is it like, well, I don't see any other natural fights I have to see, but then I also know that the build up to it is going to be juicy. So that's actually the fight that I want to see the most, is like, let's get this out there. Let's get this podcast footage posted. Let's get this, let's get it all done, man. So so while that stands in stark contrast to my watching the new guys develop, I will still always won't be very interested in the guys that we've been covering their career for 10 years, 15 years, whatever. So I'm very interested in those guys, and I want to see them fight each other.
Yeah, and I think for them, I mean, if UFC matchmakers call you up, either of them, and say, do you want each other? Do you want a Michael Morales or a Shavkat or something? Like, I'm taking that fight all day over those other alternatives. It seems like the most winnable and most upside fight for both of them.
Yeah, like, do you want the dude that's like pretty close to your age? Do you want the dude that's like a decade younger and like just mowing through people right now?
Killer.
That's when you start saying, I mean, it's not that I don't want to fight Michael Morales. It's just that he's got a lot more to accomplish. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to stunt his run right now. So yeah, I'll take that one. So I agree with you. I mean, in the Chael Sonnen-esque mission of finding the easiest fight available for the most money possible, like I think that works for both of them. So I love that fight.
If they do go that direction and say like Usman doesn't get the shot, which of those young guys are you most interested in seeing fight Islam Makhachev?
I mean, listen, Ian Machado Gary, I know is not that loved at all times. I think he's unfairly criticized, to be honest with you, because I think he's a great fighter. But I got, man, Michael Morales right now, like that dude looks like on another planet. You know what I mean? And knowing that Islam's not long for the world, maybe you say that Ian's a little bit more accomplished and a little, but what Michael's doing right now, and from a physical standpoint, from a stylistic standpoint, like that's the one I like to see. It's a tough matchup for sure. Like Islam is an absolute stud, and it'd be tough for anybody. But that's the one stylistically I think that most intrigues me if we were just going to pick any of the new division. I mean, I could say Shavkat as well, but it's just Shavkat off this kind of a layoff. Like, let him. I mean, there are no warm up fights in the UFC, but I don't know if you want to throw him right back into that.
Yeah, like coming off serious knee injury, going to the guy who's gonna try to take you down all fight. Maybe let it chill for a bit. But no, I'm interested in Morales too. I've said from the night after Islam won, like that's the fight I want to see. And I think like I wonder how well that would do in like a Miami market, because I saw the last Morales fight, like the media turnout for him, even in Vegas, was unreal. So I couldn't imagine if you plop that in Miami.
It's interesting. And that will be something to follow just in the Paramount Plus area is, do guys that may have gotten passed on a little, because again, now look, the UFC wants to post a big number, and I see people out there saying, oh, now if there's no pay-per-views, the UFC doesn't care. Yes, they do. They're already thinking about the contract 7 years from now. Like, do you think the UFC signed this 7-year deal and they're like, all right, we're done? No, they're thinking about who they have to re-up with 7 years from now. So they want to deliver, but that used to be some of the discussion we'd always have, right? Like we'd say like, well, who's most deserving right now? Okay, but who's going to sell the most pay-per-views? Because we know it has to be a financial success. And again, not that the UFC doesn't want to deliver the biggest numbers possible. So I think marketability is always going to be in discussion, but maybe you get to situations where you can rush a guy a little faster or give guys opportunities because you're not so worried about, hey, not only do I need to justify that this guy deserves a title shot, but I also got to make sure that people are willing to reach in their pocket and pull $79.99 out. You don't have to do that anymore. So that's something I'm interested in seeing just overall as a whole.
Yeah, very true. Well, I think that kind of transitions perfectly to, I guess, the situation at lightweight a little bit, because we know one guy did not get the title shot, maybe because of some of those things you mentioned. Yeah. But obviously the storyline to watch at 155 is just what's going to happen with Ilia Topuria. When is he going to feel ready to fight, be available to fight? All this stuff, obviously a lot of serious personal family things going on. We hope the best for him, and that shakes out as smoothly as possible for the whole family. But yeah, I mean, we're already sitting here. We're not really sure when he'll be back. If it starts to get to a territory of like, oh, the winner of Gaethje and Pimblett will be fighting Arman Tsarukyan or someone else, like where does that leave us? So I'm just curious when Ilia will be back. How will he look? Will it be the same? Anything different there? So I'm just wondering what's going to happen with him. And it seems like no one really has a firm idea what's going to happen.
Yeah, I was going to say, this honestly feels like one of the most unknown situations we've ever had. You know what I mean? Like normally there's something to lean on, or we're talking, and maybe part of that too just has to be with we're in the middle of this lengthy break, so we're not getting Dana White scrums, we're not getting updates, you know what I mean? That sort of thing. But yeah, it is such a mystery that I feel like we just don't know what to expect, man. And as you said, hope for the best, because that seems like a very unpleasant situation that he's found himself in.
Yeah, so I mean, the fight I want to see, I put down Ilia Topuria versus Arman Tsarukyan, but I have no idea how we get there in 2026. Like, perfect world, Ilia comes back and fights Gaethje or Patty summer, June, July, maybe the White House, maybe another card in the summer, and then I guess if you're Arman, you take another fight, and fingers crossed that Ilia will want to fight in November or December or something like that, and that he'll squeeze a second fight in. But I don't know. That feels good. I'm just hoping no mistakes happen. You win your fight, or maybe 2 fights in the interim. I don't know.
Doesn't feel great. And it's funny because there's no doubt that Arman, but I mean, the thing I think you really got to think about here is like, not only is Arman not getting this title shot, which is a chance for like personal glory and personal accomplishment, but don't forget, this is how these guys pay their bills, man. And he's not getting paychecks. How's he affording that caviar? You know what I mean?
I feel like he's one of the few guys on the roster who spent all his money on food.
That was the sarcasm there, Mike. I'm saying, like, how's he affording his caviar? How's he affording his caviar? How is is he gonna have to hawk the Rolex, or what's going on there? So yeah. No, I assume that was a little bit in jest there.
Yeah,
I think he's
okay. I didn't pick up on it. I'm very dead inside today, so it's the sarcasm meter isn't popping off too hard. But yeah, I mean, I wonder what kind of money he's getting to grapple one round with Shara Bullet.
Man, I mean, I don't think he'd be. I mean, if it was a kickboxing match, I bet he'd be asking for a lot more. You know, if a grappling match, he's probably not holding that, that too high of a price. But he deserves a shot, man. And obviously, everything that surrounded him and all that. I mean, a lot of it was his own doing. There's no question about it. But hopefully, he gets that opportunity this year. There's some great fights at lightweight, man. There really are. There's some fun stuff at the 155-pound division. We just don't know what's happening at the top.
Yeah, I wonder who it'll be, because you look at the rankings here. It's not super obvious. I mean, I don't feel he's going to get a BMF title shot against the winner of Holloway or Oliveira. And then down there, he's fought the guys. Like, is it going to be like a Mateusz Gamrot rematch or something like that? Like, I think it's just going to be something where you're going to have to eat crow, and you better win the fight, and then you're still in a good position, hopefully.
That's it. That's all I can do. I think he's just gonna have to take whatever they offer him, win it, and just show, don't headbutt anybody at weigh-ins. Don't go chasing after any fans. You know what I mean? Just do what you got to do.
Don't like hurt your knee at RAF wrestling against, what is he, Pat Downey, I think he's facing, or is it someone else? I don't know. There's so many announcements lately. I don't know how this promotion's pulling off everything they are over there, but some of the names
pretty cool. Pretty cool to see what they're doing, man. I don't know if it's financially viable right now for them. If they're profitable yet. I don't. Obviously, I haven't seen their business model. I don't know in terms of what kind of sponsorships and revenues they're generating. But I will say it's cool, man. I became such a fan of wrestling. Working with CFFC Match Day. I'd always been around wrestling. The connection with mixed martial arts, but actually, being at all these duels up close alongside, meeting the athletes, meeting the coaches. Producing the events, it made me a huge fan. So I like seeing what they're doing at Real American Freestyle. It's cool, man. I think they're hitting on it. You know what I mean? They're hitting on the names that matter, and because they got that nice mix of like, let's bring in some recognizable MMA stars, but let's also have these like world team standouts and these wrestlers that don't necessarily have the public notoriety, and let's blend them all together. And the production's great. So I've enjoyed those events.
Yeah, man. No, they've been interesting to watch. And I was going to say, you're doing great stuff over at TFFC. I miss working with you, and I miss everything that you do. But I'm glad you're kind of found your path post-junkie, and that I still get to see you on the road every now and then. We've had so many great memories, so many good ones with Abbey. And man, I appreciate you coming on to reminisce a little bit.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, I miss those junkie times as well, and we'll forever miss Abbey, man. There's just not enough words. Like I said, I hope that, as I said, the family or anybody that did know him or didn't know him, man, can just see how much love was out there for him. This was a good dude, and I think there's lessons we can take through life that he gave us all. Not just technical stuff, but how to live as well. So he will sorely be missed.
For sure. And for anyone who wants to try to help support his family, the GoFundMe link is in the description, and there's also a QR code on the screen. So feel free to scan that. And thank you so much, John. I appreciate you.
Thank you, brother.
Here now with Chamatkar Sandhu, the man who actually introduced me to Abbey Subhan. So that's always very special, Sandhu. Appreciate you being here, man. How are you holding up?
Yeah, this is coming in waves. I think for all of us, anyone that was close to Abbey, doesn't matter how long or short of a time you knew him, if he had a meaningful impact in your life, which I'm pretty much sure he did with everyone. You've got so many great memories with him, and yeah, since this news went public, it's been moments of being very difficult emotionally, and then I find myself just trying to power through, whether it's spending time with friends, family, work, doing what I can to support his family, things like that. It's going to be day by day. Generally speaking, I've been pretty good with dealing with deaths in my life and funerals, and the vast majority of the time it's with people that have lived a pretty good life, a pretty long life, and you can take a little solace in that and celebrate them. But when it's someone whose life is cut short and they're very much still in their prime, that one is a bit more difficult to deal with,
Yeah, man, for sure. No, it was shocking, obviously, and it still doesn't even feel real, to be honest, but it does when you get the reminders of just little things that you take for granted, little communications, or just being able to lean on someone with a simple thing. And yeah, it definitely feels like a missing piece, but he gave us so many great memories. Even together, I always think back the first event that I covered, I think internationally, was UFC Stockholm, January 24th or 2015, I think it was. And there's that famous photo of you, me, and John Morgan doing a preview in about 2 feet of snow that you took of us. And that's when you guys kind of introduced yourselves to me and said how big of fans you were of John Morgan and Junkie and everything that we were doing, and obviously that led to us working together and all those things. But what do you kind of remember of that event we covered at UFC Stockholm?
Well, one of the first things I remember is me and Abbey talking about the Kamikaze TV, which was our YouTube channel at the time. That was the the content hub for all of our videos, we were thinking about how to kind of get it known and get some branding out there. And I don't know if it was him or me. One of us decided to get a pink microphone foam head.
Yeah.
And the funny thing about that picture that you're talking about is here you, me, and John are there, pretty much layered up. Bar John probably wearing shorts because
of course he was definitely wearing his beige khaki,
yeah.
or his beige khaki shorts.
Yeah. And there's this it's kind of like completely like white in the background. And there's like crazy snow falling on us, and then I'm holding our Kamikaze TV microphone with that pink foam head. And me and Abby were just thinking at the time, thinking maybe people were like, what the hell is that? Who is that? What's their platform or whatever? But yeah, like I just remember that whole era, that whole time, me and Abby were just think we didn't know what we were doing. Like a lot of people in Europe, I think we were just trying to like figure it all out as we kind of went along. And we just took it event by event, took every opportunity that came our way, made the most of it. And it was a bit of a hit and hope situation. And it was that event in Stockholm where it was really kind of like John immediately, who I think went to bat for us after that event, or even just during that event. He must have shared with, at the time, Dan Stupp and with the rest of you guys, like, hey, I don't know what our plans are long term in terms of, the sport growing. And this is at a time where, the UFC every year was just getting bigger and bigger, and it still is even to this day. But back then, as the sport and the brand was getting more global, I think the higher ups at Junkie and USA Today Sports were thinking, how can we leverage that, and God bless them. God bless them. They took a chance on me and Abby, and threw us a bone, gave us an opportunity here and there. Very much contracting, freelance. We took what we could, but it gave us an opportunity to work with you and John and the rest of the team, who had more experience than us, and were able to guide us in the right direction. And it was just the beginning. It was literally just the beginning of our journey of in the sport, figuring it out and forming relationships with the rest of you guys, and also at the same time making our bond a lot stronger than it was before we both embarked on this journey in the MMA media landscape.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that was January 24th, 2015. So almost 11 years ago now. And January 24th, that's our first pay-per-view of the year coming up. But yeah, man, I just remember that we were staying in a huge Airbnb, I think all of us together in the middle of the snow. We were having to stay up weird hours because I think the main card for that event was 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. local time in Stockholm. So it could be like on prime time in the US. It was a UFC on Fox card. Anthony Johnson in the main event, which is kind of a trip to think about as well. Obviously, RIP to him too. Yeah, man, that's such a core memory and such an important part of the experience. And I think just helping us bond and things that you're not really going to be able to get anymore, right? Like, I don't think there's a day where we're sending 3 people to Stockholm for a fight night anymore. It's just not the way coverage really goes anymore.
Well, I think number one, you're absolutely right. Number two, I think a lot of us, especially, well, for me and Abby, definitely, but I think a lot of people in the European MMA media that have been able to, thankfully, luckily for them, forge these, careers and are still very much active. We all kind of look back on that era and at that time so fondly, because we were all, in it together, figuring it out, trying to see how we could replicate what our North American colleagues and peers were able to do and do this thing full time. But yeah, back in those days, it was just the best. It was so much fun being on the road. We used to love it when you guys were able to come and join us on these European events. And forget about 3 people in Stockholm. How about, was it 7, 8, or 9 in Dublin for a fight night card? Yeah. I don't know how the hell the Junkie budget ended up working out in a way where there was literally almost, a dozen of us. working
It was
a
crazy.
fight night card in Dublin. There's a great picture.
Was that the one where we lost the main event too? Was that
Yes.
ended up being Paddy Houlihan against Louis Smolka? We were supposed to get Dustin Poirier versus Joe Duffy in the headliner of those cards.
Yeah, that's right. And there's a great picture. I can't remember who took it. It might have been John who took the picture. I think it's you and me doing a preview show. Abby and Kenny are shooting. You got Per also taking pictures, and yeah, it's Simon's. Everyone's there. It's just a great memory. Another great European event from back in the day.
Yeah, man, that was so awesome. Obviously, I give you credit for having him there with you in Stockholm, and that was the way I was able to meet him for the first time. But how did you end up meeting Abby, for people who don't know the story?
Oh, me and Abby, we're both Southall boys. We grew up in Southall, northwest London, and Southall's a small town where everyone knows kind of everyone as you kind of grow up. And Abby's around 3 or 4 years older than me, and I was always the youngest in the crew in the neighborhood growing up, and so I always knew him or knew of him, and we'd always cross paths, just having the same circle of friends. And way before the UFC and MMA, our kind of bond was really on like movies and just having that passion for film, and we'd always kind of just talk to each other with film references and film quotes, and it was just a fun way of communicating, I guess. And then he went to the Dominican Republic for a long time, and then I remember I used to run poker nights at local pubs as a way of supporting myself whilst I was at university, just a side hustle. And I remember Abby came back, and he was actually the barman pouring pints at one of the local pubs that I was running the poker nights at. And he had just recently come back from the Dominican Republic at that time, and so I'd start to see him, on a weekly basis, and we would all touch base and catch up. And I've got my film studies degree, he's got his film and media degree, and then a couple of years later, I just decided, whilst I was in this kind of corporate sales job where I was earning great money, but I was completely miserable, that I wanted to see if I could do something in MMA and do something in, around the world of the UFC, which I loved so much. And I was kind of looking at everything that was happening in North America, and I thought to myself, is there an opportunity to do something like that in Europe? And then I kind of, me and Abby, we would always talk about the UFC, because I was starting to hold kind of like these UFC kind of like watch parties and like get-togethers at my friend's bar, and it would be like a lock-in, everyone's together, staying up until 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning, and things like that. And then after a few years of just trying to see, should I pursue writing, should I pursue this, I thought, right, okay, forget all that, let's do video, let's do social media, let's see if we can do something there. And then I tried a few events on my own. I'm like, I am not going to be able to do this on my own. No way in hell. What am I thinking? I don't have the experience, the skill set, or the aptitude to learn how to shoot video and edit and all this kind of stuff. So I spoke to Abby. I said, look, this is what I'm thinking of doing. Are you potentially interested in joining me on this journey? And what I've been thinking about in recent weeks is, had he said no, maybe I'm not here, where I am right now. Maybe I don't have this career. Maybe I'm not able to enjoy the luxury of doing what I, do for a living and love so much if he doesn't agree to go on this journey with me. Thankfully, he said yes. And yeah, he just said, listen, I don't know how to, shoot and edit either, but I'll figure it out. And that's Abby for you. He bought himself a MacBook. That's insane. And this is back in the day when there weren't YouTube tutorials available. He literally did figure this shit out on his own. And we would just go around from like all the local events, Cage Warriors and BAMA, way before the UFC would credential us. We'd just rock up at host hotels and just figure out how if we can get 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. And I think even one of Abby's really good friends, James, he used to work for a lads magazine. I can't even remember what it was called at this stage, but we were able to finesse a UFC credential through the magazine. I think they wanted us to do something with like the Octagon Girls, which we didn't do. we just used that as an opportunity just to get our foot in the door and kind of meet the UFC PR team. And yeah, slowly but surely we were able to finally get to UFC events, and then that's how the journey started. And it was really the relationship me and Abby had before MMA was nice because we were just friends. We were just boys from the same town. We go to the odd concert here or there. We had the same circle of friends, but it really was wasn't until when we started working together, where now all of a sudden we're communicating every single day. We're spending a lot more time together, and I'm starting to understand who he is as a person, as a professional, but also personally, and likewise him with me. And yeah, if it wasn't for MMA, if it wasn't for this sport, if it wasn't for the work that we're doing together, I would not have been as close to him as I ended up becoming. And that's the kind of genesis of my relationship with Abbey.
No, I love that, man. And just so many things you say there just resonate with me, and, similar things like that. If he doesn't agree to be the producer of the show and give me the confidence to do this, who knows if I ever get off the ground. And just, he did a really good job of uplifting everyone and giving them confidence in what they do and things like that. And the fact that you say you just don't know if he doesn't give you that yes where you're going to be at. But that's I didn't know that part about him just kind of learning on the fly when he picked up the MacBook. And that just, I think if there's any question or not lack of understanding of how talented he was and what he could do, the fact that he was basically self-taught and became arguably, in my opinion, the best editor, video producer, everything in the business, that just goes to show, the skilled individual we lost. So I appreciate you sharing that story. It means a lot. And I know we could sit here and reminisce about this guy forever. But let's try to spin it forward a little bit. I gave everyone a weight class to preview for 2026. You ended up with light heavyweight in the randomizer here. I gave you a storyline to watch that means the most to you in 26. Let's start there. What did you come up with for light heavyweight?
I think it's Alex Pereira's star power and how the UFC book him. And I feel like with what we've already seen with the first few numbered events of the year, that's perhaps just giving us a bit of insight into how, not just with light heavyweight, how the UFC may be doing a lot of matchmaking and booking this year, especially with their bigger stars, especially when it comes to title fights. And I was kind of looking at the division, and I feel like as far as 2026 is concerned, I think in terms of Alex Pereira and championship fights, I think we're in a pretty good spot, right? I feel like we've got enough contenders. We've got Carlos Ulberg, who could very much be fighting him next if the UFC wanted to. You've got the trilogy fight with Magomed Ankalaev, right? Even though we've seen it, who doesn't want to see Jiri Prohaska one more time? All you got to do is, replay their previous fights, replay their stare downs, replay that emotional scene of Jiri looking at Alex winning the title, and he's ranked number one, even though I think everyone can see now rankings don't really mean too much when it comes to booking and matchmaking anymore. But that being said, when I think about the rest of the division, outside of perhaps a Robert Whittaker teasing a move up to light heavyweight, what I would like to see the UFC do this year is really invest in this division, and invest in a few ways. Perhaps go around the world at local promotions, cherry pick their light heavyweight champions, see who's at Glory. We've seen light heavyweight traditionally very much a striker's delight in terms of who tends to have success there. And use this year, whether it's straight into the UFC or perhaps through the Contender Series, start to get some fresh blood in this division. Because after 2026, I don't know what the landscape would potentially look like. And then I think the icing on the cake or the cherry on top, potentially, is still that John Jones fight for Alex Pereira. And if it doesn't happen at the White House, fine. But I still feel like that is such a massive fight, a fight that both guys want, where, okay, if it doesn't happen at the White House, it's still an opportunity, whether it's for the light heavyweight championship, whether it's for a heavyweight championship, a BMF championship, or just, hey, we're making a fun fight here because both guys want it. That's something that the UFC could definitely, pull the trigger on. But Alex Pereira, one of the biggest stars in the UFC, a fan favorite. I think for 2026, plenty of options on the table. So I'm not concerned for the next 12 months in terms of how his career goes and what it means for the light heavyweight division. But I do have some concern long term unless we get some real investment from the UFC in terms of signing up some new talent.
Agreed. I still think merge heavyweight and light heavyweight. Let's make it 206 and up in the heavyweight division. That would be my big hope, but I don't think it's going to happen. They need these champions. But yeah, that's interesting. The John Jones fight at 205, I feel like, is the best case scenario for all parties involved. Like Pereira going up, doing it as a non-title fight doesn't make as much sense. It's a fine super fight, but like in a world where Alex Pereira can beat John Jones, if that exists anywhere, him doing it at 205 would be the biggest legacy wise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's kind of what we think. I imagine that's got to be the case.
I mean, absolutely. I think it would have been the same situation for Aspinall. Anyone that can get one more fight with John Jones, what a scalp. It's the ultimate scalp. It is literally the ultimate scalp, and it doesn't look like John Jones is going to be around for many more fights, maybe just one, and that is Alex Pereira. He's called his name multiple times over the past 12 months, and Alex wants it. And if all parties can just perhaps move aside from the opportunity taking place at the White House, but still make that fight happen, then I think everybody wins anyway.
Yeah, 205 I think would be the most even playing field for that fight. I wonder if John can make that like comfortably though at this point. It's been a while, as I was talking about with Petesy Carroll. As of February 8th, it'll be 6 years, 2 fights for John Jones since the Dominic Reyes fight. Like that's more beyond inactivities. So yeah. I don't know what they're going to do with him. Is that the kind of fight you would like to see most at 205? It's Jones versus Pereira. That's the dream one.
100%. Whether it's at 205 or any weight class, honestly, I just want to see that fight take place because there's so much build up to it now. It's like you got to make it happen at some point.
Yeah. Do you think if we did this again, January 2nd, 2027, is Alex Pereira still a light heavyweight, or do you think he's a heavyweight by this time? Is he going to make it through this whole year, whether he keeps the belt or not?
I'm inclined.
This time we're talking,
I'm inclined to say no, and the reason I say that is look how much UFC championships just get tossed around in every weight class. It's like if you look back the last couple of years, you look at the champions in January versus December, and most have new champions or returning champions, and it just shows that talent has, caught up in a lot of these divisions, and most title fights are pretty much 50-50. You just don't know which way they're going to go. That's what makes the sport great, and that's what makes it amazing, the unpredictability factor of it. Alex lost the belt, got it back. There's no reason why Jiri can't be a champion. There's no reason why Magomed Ankalaev can't be a champion again. There's no reason why John Jones can't, figure out a way to make 205 and become champion again. So, yeah, if you're going to ask me a yes or no answer to that, I'm inclined to say no, but who knows? Maybe he's still the champion, and if he is, I won't be surprised either.
Yeah, well, that's a perfect way to put a bow on it. You kind of opened your soliloquy there by saying like how the UFC is going to book it. That ultimately depends. I think we'll probably get Carlos Alberg way ahead of a Magomed Ankalaev trilogy. So that'll kind of speak to it, man. But no, I appreciate you talking about this. And again, so important to have you on here because as you said, like you don't know if you'd be here without Abbey. I don't know if, you didn't make that relationship and ask them to do that and bring him to Stockholm if, I would have built the relationship. So I'm very grateful to you for, setting that up for us, I guess, and, introducing us and everything.
No, you're welcome. And my pleasure. And just shout out to you. You've been great to talk to and bounce things off over the last couple of weeks, way before this was made public. In fact, you were the one that broke the news to me. I just remember seeing missed calls and messages from both you and his widow, Charlotte, now. And the last couple of weeks have been extremely, extremely tough. There's definitely rough times ahead, for sure. But we're both godfathers to his children. We are linked forever, brother. That's just the bottom line, and that's all because of Abbey.
Yeah, we are, man. Well said. And appreciate you, everything you've done. We'll mention a few times throughout this program, but the GoFundMe is on the screen here. So if you want to scan that, donate. Appreciate you so much for helping set that up. And yeah, man, you've been a huge rock for me through this situation. So appreciate you coming on and talking about this.
Yeah, anytime, man. Anytime.
And joined now by one of my longtime MMA junkie colleagues, Ken Hathaway, Cold Coffee, the other half of our great video team. And I think Kenny now the only person or one of two people besides Matt Erickson who I've worked with longer than Abbey at this point. So appreciate you, man. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, the rare on-camera performance on screen. If it wasn't for Abbey, I wouldn't be doing this. I'd rather. I like being behind the scenes. I like being behind the camera. but for Abbey, we'll do this one.
Yeah, no, of course, man. I really appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, that just speaks to what you guys have done, such a big part of MMA Junkie. I mean, anytime I would have the privilege, and it wasn't too many, of covering an event with both of you guys,
Yeah.
it felt like, one of the most comfortable things in the world, because we knew you're just killing it, and we had like the best team possible for on the ground coverage. And I was talking with Chamatkar Sandhu about this, that like kind of famous photo of us all in Dublin on the patio there. Like, was that the first event you covered with Abbey? Like,
that was the first one we got to actually, work together in person. We had talked before, obviously over the internet or whatever, because my time in Junkie, I did some stuff a little bit before, behind the scenes, before I actually came over, and that was in February of 2015. And so I had been around hovering on the sides, but then when I came over and was doing Junkie full time, helping like contracted over here, I always knew of Abbey, but we always just chatted, because I'd see this stuff that, Sandhu and him would put together and do. And I was like, oh, that's cool, man. What these guys over in London are doing, and they were grinding. I was like, man, these guys are cool. So it was finally an opportunity to do that event together. And on that picture that you're referencing, because I remember Abbey was so excited to try to do stuff. I was like, bro, this is awesome. You shoot. I'm going to hold a light. I was just literally holding a light right there. You could see, if you look at the picture, you could see how you guys' face are kind of lit. I remember holding a light, and then we had Farah off to the side shooting the photos and stuff. And I remember it was cool, because that was one of the first time that we could really sort of start working together and just sort of, imparting knowledge and stuff, and just watching him grow. And so seeing him from what he was then to what he, became by the end was just, it was one of my favorite things in life, just seeing how much that dude was able to kind of grow and become what he became. And it was just incredible. And, and I was saying this on the roadshow the other day, when it came to some of the stuff he was doing graphic wise, there's nobody that could touch what Abbey did, and, I was telling about how last year, I think it was last year, a lot of times with the corporate things, you feel like you nominate people and you feel like it just gets dropped into the ether and it does get whatever. But I nominated him for the graphics, and unfortunately, they went the route and chose some more corporate, this is I forget what it was about, but it was there was a graphic that was used for the USA Today property, not just one of the verticals like what we were, but Abbey got the runner up for the greatest like graphics in the network, which at the time I thought his was better than the other guy. But even the fact that we were able to get that as an award when we were just like the little redheaded stepchild off to the side, which I still feel like Junkie kind of is in the network. It's gotten better, but that just showed like, the dude's stuff of what he was doing was heads above anything else within the network. And, and I'll come at me, bro, fight me on that one. Like anybody, like his graphics and what he was doing was incredible. But even just watching what he was able to do in his stories, his editing, I mean, like it was just incredible, and that's probably one of the hardest parts to think about. Is like, we're never even going to see the finished product of how good he was getting to be, But yeah, going back and looking at that event, that'll always be a special one, because I remember me and JMO got to like take a back seat for like part of most of the event because we had those guys. They were like, all right, cool. In fact, I think that was the one where we got to go sit in the stands and watch the fights, because there were only limited like spots, and so they wanted to work the event, and we were like, well, why don't you go work the event? We're gonna go sit in the stands and get drunk and watch the event, So yeah, it was incredible. But yeah, it goes back a long time, man. It was crazy. Yeah, when I saw that over 10 years of doing stuff with him, and it was it's incredible. Yeah, the vacuum that this team and that I think the MMA space, it's going to be huge, obviously for Junkie, but just in terms of the stuff he was putting out and what he could put out into like the MMA community, it's a huge loss. And so yeah, it's a sad one.
Yeah, man, it really is. And you kind of hit the nail on the head in a lot of different ways there too. But just like seeing the level he brought anything he touched up to, and just the guidance he was giving. I mean, I didn't know how to edit a video until like 4 or 5 years ago, and you and John Morgan and him were such a big help in terms of making that happen. And then just even now, like trying to make a graphic or something, and even trying to do it one sliver as good as he is, it's just it's really tough. And that's kind of one of the hardest parts of this, is you just think to any of these things we touch, he has his fingerprints all over it, only from like the finished product to the learning process.
Yeah, and that's what I think was one of the coolest things I've heard, because you said it and JMO said it yesterday too, that when he realized he was being slow on the site and he's like, I wish I could get these things edited. I wish I could help quicker. And Abby's like, well, dude, here, you want to learn how to do some of this editing? He's like, just come sit down and start like help showing him. What was cool seeing some of the other cats that have been chiming on social media and stuff, saying like, I didn't really know what I had to do with this camera. And then Abby pulled me over to the side and was like, here, do this. Just goes to show that, I mean, like, as focused as he was on and doing stuff for us, he still had time to kind of like help bring up other people. And I think that's one of the coolest things that I think anybody in this space can do. Is, I mean, as big as this community is, but as big as the competition, we're all still like a close-knit community, like we all try to help each other out. If you're on site and you're grinding, we always want to help each other out. So it's cool that you're hearing all these up and coming journalists and videographers and people in the space that are looking at Abbey as like this guy that like helped set them on their way, and that's incredible. That's as much as I think anybody can leave in this world, their legacy, people thinking like, it's incredible for the help that this guy gave me. He helped me, send me on my way. And, so it's really cool to hear that, but that's what we would expect from him, like that's the interactions that we got from the guy. So it's been pretty cool hearing that. Definitely is a healing thing, as hard as it's been for everybody. I know how hard that's been for his family, just hearing that sort of stuff. And it makes it feel better because you were like, that's why it hurt so bad, because he was such a good dude. Everything was so, positive that it's just like it hurts, because you're like, it's like a huge void to the world, But
yeah. No, very well said. I don't think I could say it better than that. So yeah, I mean, man, it's just been so tough, and especially us at Junkie, it'll never be the same. But we can only hope to try to do him proud with our work and everything, and hope he's watching down us. So yeah, it's tough to kind of transition into forward, but I know he would want us to like speak about the sport and try to keep things light as possible.
It helps to talk about other things. It really does.
Yeah, there's nothing you want to talk about more than like this sport. He loved it so much too. So that's the best we could do. And yeah, and the randomizer for the weight class, Kenny, you got strawweight here.
Strawweight.
So yes, the Mackenzie Dern division, I think it was doing that to you. It knew it was going.
It knew it. It pegged me. It was like, oh, Kenny. Oh yeah, he won Dern's division.
There you go. So what's your big storyline to watch for the UFC strawweight?
Well, I mean, and it's funny because it kind of relates to Mackenzie Dern. Dern was able to get the strawweight title because there was a huge vacuum. There was a loss, and that's my storyline is Zhang Weili.
Yeah.
What is she going to do now? She tried to go up. She tried to challenge for the 125 belt, but the fact that didn't work out. So is Mackenzie Dern now just holding on to, Weili's belt, waiting for her to come back? I mean, would she have been able to get it should she had stayed in that division? I think so. That's the biggest question for me. And that kind of leads into the fight I want to see for the next year is I want to see Dern and I want to see Zhang Weili fight for the belt. I mean, Weili, if she decides to stay in the 125, that'd be great. It's great to see it, but she's fought the top. She fought the best, and it did not come out anywhere near that she thought. And frankly, as dominant as we've seen her in the 115, Valentina dominated her. It wasn't even close.
Yeah.
So do you want to stay in a division and just sort of hover around the number 2, the number 3, the number 4, or do you go back into a division that you were kind of just starching people, that you were just manhandling people or woman handling people in that division? And so that's my biggest, question is, what is she going to do? And I think that she's going to go back to her division. And I think that's the fight that we're going to see or hope to see is Dern fighting Zhang Weili. I mean, there's definitely some prospects. I do have the prospect that I want to, I know this isn't the section, and I know you're asking about fights and stuff. If I could pick like a person, I think that people want to keep an eye on for a prospect for the strawweights is Fatima Klein, who, was a champ in the CFFC, but she's fought up in the 125. She's beaten everybody except your fellow Canadian, Jasmine Jasudavicius, but that was at 125. In 115, I think she's much stronger. I think she's not undersized. Not that she was really undersized at 125, but 125, Jasmine, my guess, Jasmine's awesome. She's incredible. So, I mean, it's kind of like you can't really just say, oh, well, she's not going to do well at 125 because she fought one of the best fighters and lost. You know, I think she could do well, but I think 115 is something. So she's not at the point where she could. Fatima is not at the point where she could be challenging like Dern and some of the others. But if I had to pick a prospect for 2026 to keep an eye on in that division, it's her. But as for my fight I want to see, it's got to be Dern and Wiley fighting for the belt. You know, like it's the only one that makes sense. You look at the UFC rankings, Wiley's number one. It's not like they're just going to be like, okay, well, she's got to wait and fight somebody else. I mean, she had like four defends of her belt before she like vacated it. Yeah. Bro, you like she comes back, you like what you make her have to fight a fight or two to get to that point. It's like you really can't, you know. So it's kind of interesting that in the UFC rankings, Wiley's got a place in both divisions, which is that's just mad respect right there. They're like, you know, we made you give up your belt, but we're still going to keep you at the number one spot. you know, like it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I'm curious what she'll ultimately end up doing. We haven't really heard Wiley talk about anything. It's been about 2 months since that fight, but yeah, you just imagine she's like 35 now. How
35, 36.
Undoing that weight and like whatever she did to try to bulk up for that fight that obviously didn't work as well as she wanted to. So yeah, I mean that's the one to make. I wonder just about her timeline. Will they try to do Dern versus Tatiana Suarez first or wait on that? But then you're kind of, if Suarez wins, you're in a weird spot where she just preserving Dern seems like it makes a lot of sense. And I don't know, I feel like the UFC has been wanting Mackenzie Dern as a champion for a very long time.
I mean, with good reason.
Soon.
I mean, with good reason. I mean, she talks the talk, she walks the walk. She's obviously marketable. You know, they could definitely easily sell it here in the States. And, you know, a lot of time, and she carries over to the Brazilian market. But as for like US market, everybody loves her. And, you know, a lot of times we're just like, yes, we want a champ that speaks English, that we can do whatever, that they'll put on events here in town. But I mean, it's incredible. I think it's one of my favorite divisions. You know, like I know a lot of people kind of crap on watching women's fights, but fights like this with these kind of players, I mean, they're always fun. They're exciting to fight. And if anybody thought like, you know, if you look at, you know, Wiley's fight versus Shevchenko, even though it was dominant, I thought it was super exciting. Dern's fight against Verda, while it was dominant, I thought was still very, very exciting. I mean, like, I love these divisions. I love these lightweights, just like with the lightweight of the guys. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of action, you know, fast pace, a lot of technique. I mean, it's so much fun to watch. So I think 2026 should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, one fight I had noted down for strawweight for 26, and it kind of got pushed back a little bit, but Jillian Robertson versus Mackenzie Dern could be a lot of fun. The two women with the most submission wins.
Oh, that'd be a grappling heavy match. That'd be fun.
Yeah, we could be talking about that right now, if not for Amanda Lamos's whatever that was on her lip that caused the commission to pull that fight. But if Robertson had fought that one, I think
there wasn't a pimple. Or whatever she tried saying.
That's why I tried to keep it very generally speaking, because I'm not exactly sure what that was.
Yeah, I guess nobody's for sure. But yeah, when you looked at it, you're like, wow, all right, yeah, that's
Well, I have you here since we were a few people short on all the weight classes. I assigned myself for women's flyweight. I guess is the storyline to watch. How much is Tracy Cortez's striking going to evolve under Alex Pereira, or is that half kidding?
So that's a thing, right? I mean, was that the big reveal for the New Year's big reveal? Like when everybody saw that, everybody's like, "Wait, is this a thing?" I mean, that guy is living his best life right now. I will tell you something. He is. You know, inside and outside of the cage, man, he's just knocking it out of the park. Good for him. But yeah, I mean, that should be interesting. But I mean, I'm trying to think how the records of people that we've seen associated with him have been afterwards.
Yeah.
I don't think it's been so great.
Well, we'll see. I think it could only level her up in terms of the striking, and that's where she needs to go if she wants to be a better fighter. So if nothing else, the professional relationship there will be helpful, I think.
What's funny, you know, like, you know, it's funny because you brought up the striking and made me think about when I was thinking about like with Dern in the scope of who's able to kind of keep getting better should a matchup with Zhang Weili come back. Dern fights so many times a year and her striking is getting better and better. And now her striking's helped dominate in these fights. Weili fighting once or twice a year, you wonder if we're ever going to get the same sort of growth. At some point, strength alone is not going to win the fights. And we saw that with Jessica Andrade. Mm-hmm. I felt like she was so strong and then was just beating everybody until everybody was like, okay, your strength's not that dominant anymore. And then they're able to kind of win. So now I wonder, I think a lot of people be like, oh, easily, she's holding the belt for Wiley, but Wiley doesn't fight that often, and she's getting older. And Dern, I just feel, is just getting better and better, especially with her striking and stuff. So I don't know. I don't know what I'd lean on that, but it just made me think about when you were talking about the striking and what would happen with, Tracy's striking. It just makes you wonder. It makes you wonder, but
for sure.
Yeah.
We'll see if she gets the 30% better thing by becoming a champion that they claim is so true. But more realistically for flyweight, I guess my big storyline to watch is, are the challenges going to come to Valentina Shevchenko, or is she going to have to go to them, right? Like you have Amanda Nunes saying in theory she could drop to 125, try to become that triple champ. Kayla Harrison has mentioned her like coming up. She said she's interested. So will she stay in this division and just do the normal thing, fight, Natalia Silva versus Rose winner or whoever the next contender will be at this point? Or are we going to get some more Valentina Shevchenko super fights? So that'll be interesting to see. And I guess the fight I would like, though, if it is business as usual and Natalia Silva beats Rose Namajunas, I would be interested in seeing that matchup just from the striking side, even though
it'd be fun.
Yeah, the power and fight-ending talents there leave a little bit to be desired between those two. But I think it would be a nice tactical 25-minute fight. So
100%. 100%.
Storylines aren't too deep, but Valentina Shevchenko is extraordinary, and this is her division, and she is centered around it. So we'll see if anyone can disrupt the dominance of her, or if father-mother time goes against her finally in 2026. We shall see.
Eventually, it catches up to everybody, but she, for some reason, when she is on, there's nobody that can touch her. And I think there, up until we saw that, I guess mishap with Grasso, she was untouchable. I don't think anybody would ever pick against her. And then there was a little moment in the Matrix where people doubted and people were like, okay. And then we just saw what we saw and we're like, okay, the Matrix has resorted itself. We are fine. I know where my pick's going to go. I mean, when she's fighting how she's fighting right now, how can you pick against her? It's impossible, So it'd be interesting to see who they match up with her, because at this point, my pick's set and I'm putting Valentina as the winner.
Definitely. Well, she was the 2025 female fighter of the year for a reason.
For good reason.
There you go. All right, Kenny. I really appreciate this. As you said off the top, I know you don't come in front of the camera too often.
Yeah.
But this obviously warrants it. And sorry we have to do this under these circumstances, but I'm grateful for you, man, and everything you do for me and the whole team at MMA Junkie.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. We just need to be as grateful as ever for each other, because you never know how life is going to go. So thank you, man. I really appreciate this.
I appreciate it.
I'm joined now by my longtime MMA Junkie colleague, a woman who I think maybe got to spend more time on the road with Abbey than anyone on the staff in recent years. Farah, I know this has been tough on you as anyone else. How are you holding up?
Yeah, it's been just so many different emotions, from denial to grief to anger to it's just been hard to try to get on with my week and what I usually do. So I'm like a very routine person when it comes to my life, like with work and basketball and all that stuff. And just it's been on my mind every single part of the week, and just trying to put on a brave face in front of everybody else. And it's been rough.
Yeah, I know. You echo the sentiments of everyone who's kind of been on here so far, but I know you two did have a special relationship. I know you kind of almost said you thought of him as like a brother of sorts, just because he was such a big supporter. I mean, I don't know if you want to, talk about that and just the times you guys had on the road and just how he showed you that support, as he did so many other people too.
Yeah, I mentioned this in my tribute post to him, that he messaged me as soon as I joined the MMA Junkie team, and he was so excited. And obviously I knew about MMA Junkie and watched the guys cover the UFC London show in 2016. So I'd seen the guys around there and stuff. So obviously I was extremely excited as well. And yeah, just from then on, like, we just developed a relationship, just not only work, but personal. Like, we had a lot of conversations on a personal level. He knew everything about my life, and just I remember the first trip we covered was Bellator, actually, in 2022, because I know he was close to MVP, and it was very nice to see MVP kind of pay tribute to him as well, and Norbert Navenia Jr. as well, and those guys at London Shoot Fighters. So that was the first event we covered, and we got great backstage access to cover MVP's fight with Logan Storley. Quite an anticlimactic ending to the fight. We didn't get to like wrap up the documentary like we wanted to, but still just the access that we got. And yeah, it's nice because with Abbey, you just got to see how everybody from fighters to, and I know he had a good relationship with Makwan Amirkhani, who I met in London in 2016, like to see the respect that he got from not just like us, but the fighters, staff, like everybody that knew Abbey just had such a high level of respect for him. And it's nice to see how everybody honored him. But yeah, from that first trip at Bellator to the UFC Londons, we did Paris. He brought everybody together. It's what he did. Like I kind of, I didn't know anybody at the time. Like I knew people from like social media and stuff, but you almost felt like we all MMA media was on the same team, like on the same site when Abbey was around. Like he just brought everybody together, and the vibes were always so good when he was around. And yeah, it's just, we had so many, this 2026 in particular, we had so many things planned, which is what really makes us hard, because 2025 was not like the best year for me work-wise. I think we just all are tough on ourselves, and we have these goals that we don't always fulfill. And I remember when he came off of that ATT trip in Florida with you, he was just so excited to do different things with me. He's like, in the UAE, and we had plans for Paris and London as well. And I don't know, it's going to be so hard to go to these events knowing that he won't be there and won't get to do these. I hope to try and do something just to honor him while I'm there. Granted, I don't have his skills and his ideas, but you know what I mean. Yeah, I think it's covering events, it's not going to be the same.
Yeah, no, I know. I feel the same way, but I guess we just have to be grateful for all the years of experiences we did get to have. And, you mentioned a number of things there, but is there, a memory that truly stands out? Is that first Bellator show, or anything from the UFC side you guys did in recent years?
I think the Paris one really stood out because I think he knew how much that one meant to me. I didn't make the 2022 one because I had visa issues. And I was like really unhappy with not making that, and he ended up going alone. But then 2023 we did together, and we
was that the one where he proposed to Charlotte, or was that the 2022 one?
That was the 2023 one. Yes, that's when he stuck around. Yeah, so that trip was just so special in every way. And I met Charlotte, I think it was my final day before I fly back, and I met Charlotte, and we sat down, and Abbey and I must have had so many pastries that trip. And we ate so much. And I usually work out all the time, but I just never get time to work out when we're on work trips, because I'm always so paranoid that someone might respond to me and I might get an interview. So I don't even like see the town. I don't do anything. I just stick around by the fighter hotel. I can't even go work out because I'm like, I'm going to look all like messed up and sweaty. So he's just like, he would always tell me like, come on, you can put on an extra couple pounds. And every single part of that day just was us going to that one like place to get pastries. And he loved eclairs. And I remember in the media room I found eclairs, and he was like, obviously he couldn't get off his computer at all. So I went back and I'm like, guess what I found? And I brought him an eclair. I think he took a picture of me and he sent it on Slack as well. And so yeah, that trip is always gonna the London trips were always awesome. We always did great work, but that Paris trip as well, I think that one is going to stick in my mind just because I got to meet Charlotte, and I know how special of a trip that was for him as well. And we wanted to do Paris again this year. That was because we didn't do it in 2024. We didn't do it in 2025. And we were trying to, talk Simon into doing it for 2026. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I know Farah. He was such a big fan of you, and I know he loved that we got to do shows together on this platform. Anything we did on MMA Junkie, the live streams we've done here, he loved that we're kind of pushing forward and trying to do stuff. So again, I think maybe the best way to honor him is to continue to try to do what we do and preserve his memory in all the ways possible. So. Yeah, is there, before we try to turn the page, as tough as it is here, to talk about some UFC stuff, is there anything else you want to get off your chest in regards to this?
Yeah, I'm just glad I waited a little bit before I got to, because the meeting, I was a mess. I was in the locker room. I was supposed to coach basketball practice, and I just had someone take over because I was a complete mess. And I remember telling Simon, I said I can't do it because I want to be able to get out this stuff. I said I need some time. So I'm glad I took the time before I got to, because past week has been really, really hard. And we had numerous squabbles, Abby and I, literally like sibling type of squabbles, because I know he wanted the best for me, and I know sometimes I'd get a little frustrated, and he'd get frustrated at me more than anything because he's just trying to push me to get the best out of me. So those are always going to stick. And we had a pretty bad squabble when I was in Morocco, I remember one time, and it was just one of those like, fine, can we end the conversation like that? And just the next day we're like, what are we even doing? So yeah, like I know those came 100% out of him really, really caring. And I knew that. And I just, I hope, like, my aim for 2026 will be just to make sure that it's a lot more of an active year for me, and all those ideas that we had, even though I'm not going to be able to portray them the way he would, just try and do it a little bit of justice, and trying to get going. It's going to take some time, but I just hope that I can honor him in that way.
For sure. No, I think a lot of us feel the same. And obviously you have a whole team here, and my support, Farah. So
appreciate it.
Anyway, you can lean on us. We want to encourage you. And I know how strongly he felt about you and wanting to push you, because he did a lot of the same things for me. So yes, we will do our best going forward. And I guess thinking of going forward, as I've discussed with everyone, some storylines here and fights to be seen in these particular weight classes. You got bantamweight, the great bantamweight division in the randomizer. What did you come up with? What's your storyline to watch for 2026 at bantamweight?
How Merab bounces back. I think he turns 35 in January, correct? And help us, Mr. Statman. We know that doesn't really spell the greatest things, right? The whole 35 and over. I know a couple of people have broken it or whatnot, but the reality is it's always interesting to see how a dominant champion bounces back. We've seen kind of, I hate to call it a downfall or whatnot, but Adesanya, 5 title defenses, hasn't really been great for him. Kamaru Usman, maybe a little bit of a revival here after a 3-fight losing skid, but history says that doesn't always go well. But Merab, I guess you can point to certain factors of the activity, and maybe it wasn't the best idea. And I think it's human nature to perhaps underestimate a little bit. He's already beaten Peter Yan in dominant fashion the first time around. I know Yan said he was at 50%. People jump and say excuses, right? We've seen that with Pereira, Magomed Ankalaev, Amanda Nunes, Juliana Pena. Fighters, when they put those, we've seen a lot of that lately, right? Where fighters just vocalize that they weren't at 100%, more than ever, I feel, right? And then sometimes it turns out looks good for them, sometimes not. But so I think I'm interested to see where Merab's mind is at. He always seems like a guy who kind of lives at the gym, and you expect him to bounce back strong, but does he get an immediate rematch? Something tells me, I know he has the UFC's respect, at least from that regard. I know the relationship with the UFC has changed over the years, but I'm pretty sure Merab's team are advising him to take some time off. But what if Petr Yan wants to get right back in there? We know Sean O'Malley's in the mix, and it only takes one win with him, right? And he knows it, right? He's pushing for the White House fight with Petr Yan, and Petr Yan seems in. He wants to avenge that loss. Of course, there's Umar Nurmagomedov in the mix. So, yeah, I'm just interested to see what 2026 looks like for Merab, if he does get an immediate rematch. If not, he's kind of beaten a lot of the other guys, right? So that's interesting.
Yeah, it is. And we're 3 weeks out today from UFC 324. Obviously, Umar Nurmagomedov fighting on that card against Deiveson Figueiredo, Sean O'Malley against Song Yadong. So something tells me definitely they're not making any decisions before that night is complete, and we'll see who wins, what happens there. But Merab, I think you got to be right now maybe Deiveson Figueiredo and Song Yadong's biggest fans, because you want both those guys to lose probably. But all things being equal, I guess, what's the fight you think needs to happen in 2026 in this division?
I know I just spoke at length about Merab, but I actually think Umar and Petr Yan, That's the one that really has my interest because, yeah, there's like unfinished business and whatnot, but it's like we've already seen it twice. Second fight was obviously a lot more exciting than the first one, but yeah, Umar Nurmagomedov, I think that's the guy because he has. Well, of course, it's going to depend what happens against Davison Figueiredo, right? But he has that one loss to Merab where he won the first 2 rounds on 2 of the 3 judges' scorecards. Merab rallied to beat him. Obviously we've heard Umar's team speak at length about him breaking his hand and him not telling his coaches, and then would have wanted to change his strategy. He's won 2 in a row, I believe, since then. Just the one. Sorry, if he beats Davison, that'll be 2 in a row. Because I know a lot of people talk about privilege with him and stuff, but I think 2 wins after losing a title fight in close fashion is good. We've seen worse. Come on, like we've seen worse.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think people like to like. I think it's Merab mostly, but definitely a lot of people aren't fans of Umar just being in the title picture in the first place. But I think if he beats Davison, that's enough. And we don't know if Sean O'Malley beats Song Yadong, if he's going to get over him. Who knows, right? Because I feel like now champions get to dictate a lot of what goes on. So if Petr Yan pushes for it, now I understand why. I mean, Petr Yan is not happy about that UFC 280 loss. It was a great fight, but controversial outcome in a lot of people's eyes. So it wouldn't surprise me if he pushed for that. But I think in terms of just pure interest and matchup wise, Petr Yan, because it's fresh as well, Petr Yan and Umar Nurmagomedov is the fight I want to see most.
Yeah, I think that'd be awesome. There's probably multiple ways we can get to that, right? It doesn't mean it needs to be the next title fight. It could be, end of year type of thing. Maybe, how big, I talked about this with Usman Nurmagomedov when I interviewed how big that fight would be in Abu Dhabi if you could do Yan versus Umar.
Well, this is selfishly me pushing for that too, because I want to.
Yes. So, hey, put it out in the ether. That feels very real for sometime in October if they both do their business. So we'll see what happens there. And I guess another division I gave myself, flyweight, as we cover every weight class here. The big question, I guess, is what's going to happen with Alexandre Pantoja. I know a little has come out from Coach Parumpa. He said no serious ligament damage, but kind of indicated no very clear recovery timeline, all the stuff. I feel like as we sit here almost a month after the event, I was expecting more clarity on exactly what happened. He hasn't spoken about it really at length. So makes me wonder just how bad things are, and are they going to hold Joshua Van out waiting to give him the rematch, or are we going to get a potential Joshua Van versus Manel Kape fight, a Joshua Van versus Tatsuro Taira fight? I heard John Anik reference that on the Jackson podcast, that maybe he could see that happening with Taira. So yeah, it feels like Pantoja might get a tough break here. No pun intended in terms of what is going to happen with his next fight. But I suspect it'll be for the belt, but who will be the champion that he's fighting, I guess, is my big storyline question there.
I agree 100%. And I don't think they wait for him to get healthy, because he still has to get healthy. He still has to jump into a training camp. And I'm sure his team, it's like the age thing we talk about. How old's Pantoja? Why? You got to be very mindful of these things at this point in your career. And I think Kamaru Usman did it really well. Criticize him all you want, but look at him now. He couldn't get a title shot. The waiting game is not the worst thing in the world, especially if your name holds value. And I think Kamaru was banking on that. I know Islam alluded to the UFC wanting him to defend his belt in January against Michael Morales, but then Ali told you that it was supposed to be maybe Ian Gary, right? Or something like that.
Yeah, he said Usman and Ian were the 2 names discussed.
Yeah, well, there you go. But it just seems like Usman knows he's up there in age, knows, he's gone through a lot of injuries and whatnot. So it's not the worst thing in the world. Jumping right back in, and that's, I guess the same goes for Merab. His name holds value in the division. I know so does Sean O'Malley's and Umar's, but at the end of the day, he is 1-1 with Petr Yan. So waiting is not the worst thing in the world. So I think for Pantoja, why not just let Joshua Van defend his belt? And I think, I think he can walk right back into a title fight. So I do fully expect Joshua Van. There's some heat with Manel Kape. Tatsuro Taira's out there. So I think for sure he ends up defending his belt before Pantoja.
Yeah. Well, the fight I do want to see, though, is Pantoja versus Van, too. And I think it would be weird if Pantoja came back and he's challenging Manal Kopp or something for the title. Like if Kopp can beat Van,
Yeah.
I feel like there's obviously unfinished business between these two. I know people use that term a lot, but in this case, it's obviously very accurate. We saw 26 seconds, and it felt like it was maybe going to shape up to be something pretty cool, that fight, but we'll never know until we actually see it play out. So I feel like we need that business concluded in 2026, but we'll see if they roll the dice with Van and book him against someone else first.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the way Pantoja fights always makes you feel like whoever he's fighting has a chance because he's a brawler, right? Like he's not, it's not the performances that we've seen from Hamza and Issam where they completely stifled their opponent. Like Pantoja just goes in there and he almost right in with his head and he brawls and he's such a good grappler, so he doesn't even care if he ends up on the ground. And ironically, it ended up in an injury for him, but then Van carries that power, and I think that was the storyline we were all looking at, is the damage that Pantoja took and has taken throughout the years, and is that going to catch up to him against a guy like Van and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, I think I probably want to see, forget the trash talk between Cap and Van and stuff, but that is the fight I'd want to see most. But Manal Kopp sure knows how to make any build-up fun. I mean, the Mokaev fight ended up being a complete snoozer, but at least the lead up to it, we were all excited to see what was going to happen. So at least I'll give Cap that he, and his performance was great in his last fight. Like Cap comes to fight, and I think so does Van. So that would be fun as well. And Tyro, all these matchups would be fun, I think.
Yeah, I think the takeaway from that is flyweight is good.
Yeah,
it's probably the best it's ever been, and it's crazy. I think this division was going to go away, but it's hot as ever right now. Yeah, let's get our man Muhammad Mokaev back in there in 2026 as well. That would be good. How about that? How about that's my wish, Muhammad Mokaev versus anyone in the UFC. That's the fight I want to see.
That's like the most I don't get it. I really don't. Like, because I've gotten to know Mokaev on a personal level. I've covered him pre-UFC and stuff, and I don't get it. Like, the explanations that we've come on. Like, what did the guy do? We've seen way worse. Let's just put it. I don't need to mention names of fighters, but we've seen way worse. Like, what is going on, guys? Just bring the guy back. Like, that's stop.
Yeah, no, it's that would be nice in 2026. I know there's some selective grudge holding sometimes in this business, but it is what it is. Either way, no grudges held here, Farah, especially against you. We love you here on the program, and looking forward to having you on so many more times in the future. I appreciate you doing this. I know it's been a very difficult time, but all we can do is try to have each other's backs and talk to each other and things like that. So I thank you a ton.
No, I appreciate you having me on, and I appreciate you waiting, because like I said, I wanted to make sure that I was in the right emotional state and give it time so I could give him a proper tribute. I didn't want to come on and be like extremely emotional because it just wouldn't be fair to him and to the moment. Like, I just wanted to make sure that I was able to get out what I really felt. So I appreciate you having me on.
Of course, Farah, you did awesome, and I'm grateful for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike.
Joining us now, it's Oscar Willis from the Mac Life, my good friend Oscar, out there in the UK, I believe, still for the holidays. Oscar, how are you?
I'm good. It actually snowed today. That was pretty remarkable. I came upstairs and I was like, snow, fucking hell. But yeah, it's been very nice. Obviously, I'm same as everyone else on planet Earth, eating and drinking too much. I started my New Year's off with a health kick of 2 grilled cheese sandwiches, and some bacon. But other than that, still back to being an athlete. But yeah, it's been good. How about yourself? How was yours?
Yeah, it was just all right. Got my stepmom here doing some stuff as we try to look towards closing this house that we're working on, and a lot of stuff going on. And it's just been hard to deal with all this stuff, man. In the middle of all this, This is obviously supposed to be a very happy time of year, and it hasn't been for us all, unfortunately.
Yeah, I went out on New Year's Eve in London for the first time in years, and a man did threaten to stab me. So it is true what they say.
It's on brand.
It was like, I was like, oh wow, it's happening, cool. But yeah, as you said,
yeah, man,
not a lot of not exactly bittersweet. I think just pretty much unanimously bitter over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, and I mean, you're one of the first people, I think, with Abbey that got to spend real time with on the road together. I know you guys were doing work at the Mac Life as well, like kind of on the side with Junkie, who's helping you with graphics and all those type of things. I know in your kind of post to him, you said this guy helped me learn how to use a camera. Could you tell me
Yeah.
the story of that?
Well, no. So honestly, when the Mac Life decided we would start regularly covering events, like going to every pay-per-view and stuff like that, I think Andrew McGann was still with the Mac Life at the time, and it was a Christmas one. I think it was Holly Holm versus Chris Cyborg. So we started with a bang, but and I think Andrew recommended Abbey. So I think it was on Boxing Day, the day after Christmas Day. I got called by the Mac Life. They're like, "Hey, you got to fly to Vegas tonight, and you're going to meet this camera guy there, and you're going to be the question guy, and he's going to be the camera guy." So that's how I met Abbey. Was literally like in Vegas to cover an event, and then just because it's just in his nature to be a very helpful guy. Like he never really got as jaded about his job as maybe some of the rest of us did, So Mike, Jose, and I have often laughed at like some of the newer, not laughed at them, but laughed at ourselves when some of the newer people come along and they have got some enthusiastic questions and stuff like that. Maybe sometimes it's a little bit hard to match that enthusiasm. Abby never failed to do that. Like he was very happy to like help other people grow. And so that trip, I was watching him use his camera and stuff like that. And then eventually when I got my own camera, I would ask him how to do it and how to edit and stuff like that. And he taught me. So that's why in my post I was just like, man, like if you got paired with the wrong person first time out, it could be a very different feeling, it could be a very different support system, it could be a very different enthusiasm level you come away with for the whole thing. And I was just very blessed that I got paired with one of the most fucking supportive guys in the business. And then so we covered a few events together, and then much to Abby's chagrin, as he never failed to let me know, I actually got too good at using a camera so that they didn't need him anymore. So he ended up going more full-time for Junkie, and I ended up being the sole guy doing event coverage for the Mac Life. And he held that against me for years. He would always text me, be like, "You bastard, we could still be working together if you just slowed down." I was like, "Okay." But all in good fun. So yes, the kickstart to my career was with Abby. And so, it's just like a weird thing. It's a weird thing to sort of get your head around.
No, the hard part too, I feel like, especially for yourself, even though you're not his coworker or weren't towards these more recent years, always felt like a guy you could reach out and get like, approval on something or an extra set of eyes if you didn't feel like what you were doing, whether it's video or a graphic or whatever was there. And I know he was always very helpful for you in that regard. I mean, even as recently as the Media Row intro that you did, show that you have on the Mac Life now.
I think like, obviously what you're doing with this episode is going to be a little bit like inside baseball. People are going to talk about it, but essentially when I do a bit of content that I, kind of care about, there's like there's 4 people in the world that I will send that to. Yourself and Abby and Brett and Eric are those 4 guys that I always consult. And Abby was always such a useful voice in that because he had also the technical. When my audio was shit, which it always is, Abby was the guy who would try and help me fix it. He would be the guy that I could go to with that and offer me insight on that. And then, like you said, like we started doing this Media Row thing. He made the intro for that last year. I think it was. Abby and I toured England. We went to Birmingham where Leon Edwards stood me up. Then we went from there to Liverpool, did Paddy, went to Manchester, went, got like 4 or 5 guys, and it was really cool. And it was something I was sitting here thinking, I was like, fuck man, like if I wanted to go and do something with Tom, right, Abby would be the guy, cool. And now it's like, fuck, you don't have that. That guy's not here anymore. Which is really difficult to handle. And then obviously, anytime I could use Abby, I would have, if it worked in his junkie schedule, like the Media Row thing. And I think I sent you the screenshot of like the last text we had was about the Dana White interview I did in December. And again, I text was like, is the audio okay? And as always, he was really, really passionate in his response. He was very, very, like it's kind of a hard word to quantify when you say someone's supportive, but like he was always texting me being like, you need to be doing more shit. Like, so you're at your best when you're doing special stuff, not just going to media days and things like that. Please put yourself out there more, like supportive stuff like that you sort of it's hard to it kind of gets lost in the shovel, right? Because we're doing so much stuff every week. But I hope I'm able to stick with this. But this year, I would really like to try and do what he wanted me to and do more like one-off stuff and cool stuff and shit like that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that could be a New Year's resolution for the work-wise, is just try to stick to that. And
so certainly won't be keeping to any of the health ones, Mike. So I may as well try and stick to some of the work ones. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, man. It's at least, you know, we can take some solace in the fact that we know his fingerprints are still all over so much of our work. I mean, as I said, you know, this podcast is basically a tribute to him, not only the show itself, but all the elements and things that we put together. And
that's why the fuck you sent me you sent me a thing about grief, about being waves, and at the time we were still very much in the impact of the news. So I was a bit like, don't come at me with this hippie shit. I don't care about waves. And then actually, yesterday when I was on my way back on the train, you feel a pang, you know, you fucking look at the wrong thing on your phone and you accidentally see a photo of you guys together and you're like, oh my God. And then I did think your wave analogy was useful. But what I suspect in terms of, as you mentioned, his fingerprint being overworked for you, especially with Bohnfire and stuff like that, right? That was a business partner. But I suspect, you know, moving forward over the next few months, there'll be moments, there'll be things, there will be bits of content that you very much wish you could have heard his opinion on. And I suspect those waves will, as I said to you when the news first happened, our life is kind of our work, you know, it kind of is a be all, like we enjoy it, it's our life, but it's our job. And he was involved in that, right? So I don't think you're ever gonna like not feel his impact or his sort of presence. So in times, hopefully that'll be a blessing. Right now, feels a little bit nuts. So
no, I know he was intertwined in so many things we do. It's impossible to compartmentalize it in those ways. But yeah, the quote that Oscar's referencing is just something I saw pop up. The one time the X algorithm has proved something beneficial. I don't think we could put this quote in a bikini, but it was still a good one. And yeah, it just popped up on the feed. I don't know. Your phone knows what you're going through, and I thought that was helpful. I sent it to a few people. So. Yeah, it's it'll come and go in waves, man. But I guess, you know, part of this, we could sit here talking about this guy for hours and hours if we want to. But you know, the next wave is trying to move forward in some ways, and I know he.
So let's talk about Mobzai.
Let's talk about MMA. You know, as I kind of said off the top, this is part preview show 2 for 2026. We're still in the waiting period here. Everyone on the show, I gave a weight class to. I'll hit one on my own since we're a couple guests short in terms of the weight class, but the one you got in the randomizer, Oscar, was featherweight. So what was your story to watch for 2026 in the featherweight division?
So I think the story to watch in the featherweight division is basically the career of Alexander Volkanovski and is it ending or not? You know, I know that everyone's not super happy with that Diego matchup, and I get it. But I actually went back and watched their first fight after you gave me this assignment, and Volk was like, it's sort of this a bit weird. Like everyone, I think, because of the way that sort of fight played out, people kind of think maybe Volk like got away with it. It was like his last roll of the dice, his last good, you know. Yeah, actually go, but it's pretty dominant in some aspects of those fights. Like there's a fight like he won that fight very like well. So I think if he beats Lopez again, I think maybe people will be a little bit less annoyed about it. I think what people don't like is like they're throwing Lopez back at him again to see like, did he get older over the next 6 months so Lopez could get the title? So I think that's a bit of it. I from what I've informed, I know Lerone Murphy did an interview the other day with Demetrius Johnson, I think it was, and he said he suspects Volk will retire. From what I understand, Volk is not planning to retire in Sydney or anything like that. Obviously, results dictate, but I think he's quite happy to keep churning him out. So therefore, it's like kind of the main story in that division for me is how many can he get before MMA gets him, basically, right? Because that's the way this fucking thing goes. So if he beats Lopez, then it's like, right, who does he get next and can he beat them? So the main story for me is basically, can Volkanovski continue to be the legend that he is, or does time eventually catch him and we see him go goodbye? The other sort of secondary storyline that sort of entwines with that is like, which one is it? Is it Mobzai or is it Lerone? Like, which one of those finally gets their moment to sort of get what's rightfully theirs in that title shot. So for me, that's the main story of featherweight, is that.
Yeah, it's got to be that one. I agree. I mean, it is interesting because Volk, I think we had a lot of questions about him and what his future was going to be, but he's very definitive now. Like, I think he posted a comment or reaction or something to my fighter of the year poll, like coming for that next year. Like he's going to have an early start in January. So like, I think he's very locked in. But as you said, one fight can change everything. And if you get, knocked out in front of your friends and family in your hometown and all that stuff, we already know his family has wanted him to step away. So it wouldn't shock me.
It's quite a funny story, actually. Like, Anderson was maybe the only other guy. I mean, it's quite funny how like owners folks like, oh yeah, my family want me to retire. They have done for ages. It's just like, but you're still just gonna plow. It's funny that that guys are so honest, but
that's why they keep having kids, so there's more voices that can tell him to retire.
Yeah. But unfortunately, then he needs more money to pay for the kids. It's such a trend catch-22. What can you do? But I think. I'm excited to see, but like Volk is one of those guys in the rare air where they're so beloved now. Like, not kind of people don't even watch the fight in case they get hurt. It's very hard for fighters to get to that status. So we'll see, but it's cool to see Alex win. Like unanimously, I think everyone enjoys seeing Alex win. So I not necessarily at the cost of Lopez round, but I would like to see Alex continue get one last go run in him, and then maybe would be good. Retired sitting next year.
Yeah, when you watch that fight back, did you feel like of course the big moment for Diego is the knockdown, and he does have amazing killer instinct. He wasn't able to get it on that particular moment, but when you watch that back, do you feel like that's a guy who can make more adjustments than Volk can to win the rematch?
I think no. I mean, what will cost Volk will be his athleticism. It will be the age will cost him, because he's such a cerebral mind, and he does make adjustments very, very well, max 2 to max 3. I actually think if you look at Lopez, he basically fought John Silva the exact same. I think he's just inbred, and he just gets in a fight and he just runs forward and swings kind of crazy. But I actually thought the other interesting thing was obviously watching that fight live, the Volk Lopez fight, when he got hit and his eye went. Obviously, ringside, it looked like he was very much in pain and hurt and rocked. When I watched it back on the broadcast, I felt like it was more visible that it was just uncomfortable. He wasn't actually like hurt or rocked or anything. He was just like, fuck, And I think that makes me lean more towards Alex as well. And like, okay, well, he was eating shots, and it wasn't like, I know the story about his chin was there, but he wasn't ever really like hurt is what I felt. But in terms of adjustments, no, I imagine Lopez will probably. I can actually see Volk completely changing his game plan and maybe going really grappling heavy or something like that. And actually, it will be Lopez who has to deal with the adjustments rather than the other way around.
That would be interesting. The other part of the assignment I gave you is the fight you feel you need to see most at featherweight in 2026. What's like the top one on the wish list?
I mean, with how the division lands now, it's obviously Lerone Movzar, right? That seems to just be the biggest no-brainer. I mean, okay. I know Movzar's got. I always make little jokes that like no one wants to watch Movzar, but I really think Movzar's a really good fighter. I'm just doing it because I find it funny to make jokes like that. But I think if you look at the division, if you look at like where Volk's at, like to me that fight is a great fight between two contenders and is the natural one that needs to happen next. I will be curious what they doing with Pico. I mean, I know like he's obviously going to need some time, but it does seem like he's been very much forgotten. And then I think also as well, I am curious where Sterling goes. Sterling's made it clear like he really wants to run at that belt, and I think he deserves it. I think his bantamweight reign has been unfairly forgotten, to be honest. So I'd be curious where he fits in, and maybe you do Pico Sterling or something like that. But I think it'd be cool to see Sterling get another run and stuff like that. So those are the sort of the fights I want to see. Is like Sterling in a big contender fight, Movzar Lerone, and then Pico get a good attempt back in.
Yeah, featherweight's going to be a good one. We obviously have Javier Rodriguez coming back from injury. He's still lingering out there. Arnold Allen and John Silva are scheduled to fight. So there's some motion happening here in early 2026. Yeah. We'll see what happens. But I'll take my division now, Oscar. I had middleweight here as one of the ones to talk about with you. Obviously, the big storyline for me, the biggest one to watch is just, when is Khamzat going to fight? Khamzat Chimaev? How often is Khamzat Chimaev going to fight? Like, I know Dean Thomas got like so much shit on this podcast, and he said like him winning the title against Dricus is going to be a disaster for the UFC. as we sit here in January with no fight scheduled and he hasn't competed since August. I don't think you could say that's like a horrible take, but when is he going to be back? It's already going to be after
It's funny.
Ramadan.
It's like the two divisions are opposite. It's like how much can they keep Bulk out of the cage, and how many times can they get Hamzat in the cage? You know?
Exactly. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, that's the question. He's saying he doesn't want to fight Nasruddin Imavov because they have like the history, but I think they will if that gets offered,
Yeah.
obviously. But I want to move up to light heavyweight after one title defense. Like none of this is giving me great hope for him to be like the staple champion, an Israel Adesanya type of champion with his activity and stuff like that. So that worries me. There's a lot of good fighters in this division. And yeah, I mean, if we get him in tail end of Ramadan, if he's booked to fight in May or something, or April, good to go. But if it lingers into June, July, August, if we have to wait till October for the next Abu Dhabi yearly pay-per-view, then I think that's very, very bad. So I worry about that.
What about which fight did you want to see the most? Which fight has to happen in that division?
Yeah, do you disagree with anything I said there first? Are you concerned about this?
Dude, I agreed with Dean when not that it was going to be a disaster, but I had hoped that once he was champion, you would see him be a bit more proactive. But I get the impression, not too dissimilar to Mr. Taporia, that Hamzat's here for big fights. You know, I don't think Hamzat's here to fight routine defenses. He like enjoys the big moment, and so it's quite clear to me he just wants to fight Pereira now. Like that's the next big fight he can have. And to be honest, if you look at, I mean, not to take your one, but if you look at like the names in his division and who he hasn't fought, realistically, there's probably more exciting fights at 205. You know, like a Yuri fight with him would be pretty big, stuff like that. So I understand that he wants to just be in the big moments, doesn't appear to want to fight that frequently at all. But I think with the expectations we had on him, I think people want him to deliver just a little bit of consistency at the moment. So that's why I completely agree with you. And as you say, when you start looking at the months, and we know how the UFC book their schedule and how important location is to that, and you're like, well, fuck, he's probably not going to fight at the White House. Let's be honest. You know, that's there's going to be someone else on that. So then it's like, well, so what? Do they just whack him in Chicago in August like they did last time? I mean, I guess they could, but it just seems then it's like.
They loved him out there. I mean, that was a crazy crowd for that whole week in Chicago for Hamzat. So maybe that's a good spot for him.
I actually said that as a really random example of something that didn't make sense, and then remembered that's exactly what they did. So prove my point wrong.
I guess the fight I want to see, I mean, him versus Imavov would be great, assuming he wins that. I'm interested to see Sean Strickland and Fluffy, the winner of that, go for the belt. I mean, Sean Strickland is so defiant that like I trained with this guy. We were in the gym. I know how to stop his skill set. My wrestling is underrated, and he seems very adamant about that. And he literally told me, I want Fluffy because he is the American Khamzat Chimaev. So if he can go out there and he can actually stop what Fluffy's been doing to everyone else, I think that'd be a big statement and make a very interesting matchup with Khamzat. And if Fluffy goes out there and just runs through Strickland like he has these guys and gets 12 takedowns and 200 strikes landed, like I think that's a pretty big statement, and it makes a fight with Khamzat pretty fascinating style-wise. So
I actually think, you know what? I actually think they probably would make him stay there to fight Strickland if Strickland got the win, because I think, you know, there's gonna like. I know that like not everyone pretends they don't care about this stuff, but everyone cares very deeply about the press conferences and shit. Like that press conference is like an attention getter, you know, Sean Strickland calling him crazy shit, and then Hamzat, you know, probably trying to stab him in the neck or something.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's middleweight and featherweight there. Oscar, a little breaking news just came through my email. Who do you think Henry Cejudo is wrestling in his RAF debut? They just announced the opponent. It is a UFC Hall of Famer.
It's UFC Hall of Famer?
Yeah.
Hey, Uriah Faber?
Hall of Faber. Yes. It is Uriah Faber. They just announced that. So that'll be whenever, February 28th, I believe, for RAF. So
it is interesting to me that the UFC seem a lot less bothered about letting these guys go do shit now.
Yeah, let's see what's up when top contender tears his knee up or something like that. And that'll be I'm sure that the party's over at that point. But so far it seems like they're doing something good here. So it's always tough. I don't know how to really transition out of this segment, Oscar, but I appreciate your time reflecting, looking ahead, all this stuff. Yeah. I know it hasn't been easy, especially over the holidays and this break, but I appreciate you being strong for me and just being a good friend in these times.
You beat me to it, you know. Obviously, we were talking daily, and there was like very, very frequently times where you just like have a thought and you want to share it, and you were the guy on the end of the phone for me. So super legit, mate. I appreciate it, and I can't wait for the funeral. That's going to be such a great time for us all. That's going to be a very sad one, and UFC London, things like that, where we would have expected Abbey, are going to be very difficult. But at least we'll have each other to sort of help.
For sure, man. I look forward to seeing you and everyone else in person. I think it's going to be good for our souls. So we miss you, Abbey. We love you. And I'll be back with the next person on this lovely show. Thank you, Oscar. Sure. Closing things out here on our tribute show, it is UFC champion Kayla Harrison. Maybe not the main event of UFC 324, Kayla, but you had to be the main event here. You're the only person I'd want closing out the show. How are you doing?
I appreciate that. I'll take it. It's a bit bigger honor for me. Thank you.
Yeah, and as I was kind of saying off camera, I mean, I'm sure anyone who kind of followed this channel and saw the episode we did in your yard of the Bohnfire, and then all the other great work we did down there at American Top Team, that was just like such a special trip. That's something me and Abbey had been wanting to do for so long, and just only felt right to have you here because you are the one, more so than anyone else, who gave us access, opened the doors, not only to the gym but to your home.
Yeah, it's funny because I think that was the first time I met him, and it started rough. If you remember, I was kind of like, we were training and I was like, hey, stop filming. And I was like, I kind of got in his face, not got in his face, but like I was being a little bit like protective, I think. Yeah. And then after we talked and like instantly I was like, oh, he's cool. He's with Mike. He's all right. And it was really cool and special time to just the emus, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun too, and especially that documentary we got to put together on you. And I thought the part that was really special was like, we not only it was a project between us three, but he invited his family in as well, and had his daughter Loverly do some of the animations. And I just want to show like a quick 20 seconds from that if anyone didn't see it, because I thought this part was really cool.
She knew how good judo was for self-defense, self-discipline. Yeah, so she took me to the local dojo, and I don't know what it was about judo specifically, but like I definitely believe in love at first sight because I fell in love.
It's so funny because that building, I don't think I described the building, but the building even looked just like that. Like it was like an old school elementary. It had 4 stores. Yeah, it was crazy. But it was he's special person.
Yeah, and I feel like more so between you two, but I feel like after the fact, you guys were kind of exchanging some messages and communicating about your children, and I guess just your love of being parents too, as well, like outside of the fight world.
Yeah, it was. I'm a mother first, and so seeing him bring his daughter in and having that was the cool for me. Having her do the animation and them work together on it and see what a great dad he was. And it's one of my favorite pieces just because of that alone, and like the behind the scenes kind of part of it.
Yeah, and it means so much that you let us into your home, and that's something that everyone's kind of been resonating. Like Abbey loved to push his family to the forefront, and would always send us videos and stuff. And the fact that you got to do some work on a project like that with his daughter was just so cool. And again, just can't thank you enough for giving that access, because these projects, we could all be ask the right questions or amazing editors or whatever, but unless the athlete allows us to do that, it's not possible. So it just meant so much.
It was it's easy when you're working with good people, and Abbey was a great man, and you're a great guy. And I'm really sorry for this loss. I'm sure you're hurting. I know his family's hurting, and I'll be praying and thinking about everyone and just sending all of the comfort and peace that I can send. And
Yeah, thank you, Kayla. And yeah, part of this too, like, I had lots of media people on, and on top of this, I know Abby would want to talk about the sport and like look ahead and things like that. And
Yeah.
and I gave everyone like a weight class to talk about, so I've been doing that. But you are the weight class, Kayla, for women's bantamweight. You are the storyline. You are the narrative here. We're 3 weeks out from UFC 324. I know today is a crazy training day for you. Give some insight on what you're about to go through in the next 12 hours or so here.
Yeah, woke up with my kids, did my like morning devotional, had like 5 minutes of quiet time, and then it was chaos. After this, I'm going to head to training. I'm going to work with Anderson, then I'm going to work with Mike. Then I'm going to come home, break my fast, go to PT, go run 8 miles, go get my stem cells injection, and then I have a sauna session. So yeah, long day. Gonna be a long day. And my kids are also now doing Mako's wrestling class. So while they're while they're in Mako's class, I'll be in the sauna at the gym.
I love that. How are they enjoying it? I know that's a tough way to introduce your children to the wrestling world.
You know what? You know what's funny is I really my children are living a very different life from what I lived, and I think that it's important for kids to learn how to do hard things and to build resilience. And my kid, they don't, they're like the softest of the softest right now. And I'm like, and I don't want to, obviously you don't want to traumatize them. So you have to find a healthy way to have them do hard things. And it was so funny because I had been thinking about it for a while, and I sat down at dinner and I was like, I have an announcement. You guys are going to start doing Mako's wrestling class. And my son Emery was like, he like threw his hands up and he's like, oh, great. You're trying to get me killed. And he like walked off. And I was like, but he went to the first practice. He loved it. He had fun. He didn't do a single move right, but we all start somewhere.
Yeah, it wasn't a fight to get him there, right? I remember like when my mom.
I was so worried it was going to be. My daughter actually broke out in hives. Like that's how stressed she was about it. She loves judo. She was like, I don't want to wrestle. I want to do judo. And I'm like, listen, when I'm in camp, I can't teach because I teach a class on Fridays normally.
Yeah.
And once a week is not enough. You need to train more than that. And also you just need to go do something hard. And the funny thing about it is I know she's built it up in her head so much, but there's all of these girls there. There's a great community. Mako's an amazing coach. Like she's going to have a blast. She just has to get out there on the mat and do it.
No, that's the right way to handle it as a mom. I remember when my mom signed me up for basketball when I was younger, and I literally like remember the day where I had to go to the first practice and I did not. I was kicking and screaming and all that, and it ended up being one of my favorite sports to play and such a big part of my life. So it's like sometimes you kind of just gotta take the step forward for them.
Just give them a kick. Say, this is Sparta. Let's go.
Yeah, when you say you're showing them how to do hard things, what's like this Christmas like? Are they all eating nicely and you're having to have a plate of peas or something? I know you've done.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I know you did the Christmas weight cut a few times with PFL, but you have a little more time, I guess, this time.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't call 155 a weight cut compared to this.
Fair. That is very fair.
Yeah, we had Christmas. I had my little. I think I had like it was a half of a stuffed pepper for Christmas dinner. We went to the movies yesterday. They had M&Ms and popcorn. I was like, the audacity of these children. They have no idea. I would kill for an M&M right now, literally. I miss sugar so much.
I mean,
it'll all be worth it.
Yeah, you'll be on the scale 3 weeks from today, so that's right. We're close to the finish line here. Is it gone better, the same as the previous ones here? Is this just life now?
The weight cut?
Yeah, just like the training, getting yourself to this point where you're.
Well, I mean, I'm really excited because I feel like this fight is a fight that we have all been speculating and talking about for a long time. I do believe Amanda is the greatest female fighter on the planet. And so, yeah, I believe I'm the best in the world. And if you want to be the best in the world, you got to go beat whoever's the best in the world right now. So I'm excited for it. I think, yeah, it's just all coming together perfectly, and it's not getting easier. That's for sure. It's getting harder, but we can do hard things.
Yeah.
Every time I prepare for a fight, every time I go through this process, every time I face another big challenge, it just molds me into an even, I don't want to say better, but more evolved version of myself. Like, it's all part of the journey, and I'm enjoying every minute of it.
Has the preparation in the camp, like we've talked about this for so many years, the history between you two, the intimate knowledge, like is it what you thought it was going to be like with all that hype, or has it felt like a pretty standard training camp, and like the history hasn't factored as much into the preparation as maybe everyone thought it would?
Yeah, I mean, it's not, yeah, I mean, we're two adults and two martial artists, and so we're just treating each other with respect, and yeah, there's no bad blood for me. I know ATT really wants this one, so I'm gonna go out there and do us all proud. But yeah, it's all good. There's no like secret, whatever, it's another fight. So,
what do you think of her bringing Larissa Pacheco into her camp?
I mean, it didn't really make sense to me. Like, I'm a southpaw grappler and Larissa's an orthodox striker, but you know what? The more the merrier. Like, that's great. I love it when women help build each other up. So I think it's awesome.
Yeah. Do you think this is why do you think we're gonna see this fight twice this year potentially? Like,
no, I don't think she's gonna come back after what I do to her on January 24th. 24th.
24th.
Sorry.
It's coming up soon.
I haven't had my coffee yet. Yeah. No, I mean, I would welcome it, but I'm gonna send her back to retirement.
Love that. Yeah, it's going to be such a great event. I mean, first title fight of this Paramount era. Are they asking you to do anything different? I mean, you've been through a few build ups in terms of what they're doing for, shoulder programming and stuff. Is it basically being pretty standard, or have you noticed they're asking you to do different things? They're shooting it in a different way. Anything noticeable on your end?
Well, yeah. So we did that seasonal press conference or whatever. And I went there thinking it was just going to be a press conference, but we did like a whole shebang. Like, they had, it was kind of funny. I would go to each little, it was like a car wash, and I would go to each thing, and the person would be like, "Hi, I'm the director." And like, they're directing me walking down the chute to go to the, they're very excited. And it made me excited because there's new eyes, and also, of course, all the UFC staff who are just pros through and through. And yeah, it's exciting. I'm super pumped for it. I got to go to Nashville and do the CBS's like Nashville Big Bash countdown for New Year's Eve. So it was like pre-taped. So it's cool just to like meet other people who are, the music artists, and I'm sure the actors, and all the stuff that's gonna happen. I'm excited about it. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, no, it's going to be awesome. I'm very curious to see how this whole first fight week shakes out. And you're obviously going to be such a big part of it. So, what a way to kick off the year, Kayla. I'm again so grateful that you took a few minutes here to remember Abbey and talk a little bit about this. It's been a tough time, but I'm very excited to kind of look ahead to this fight for you. And yeah, this really means a lot, Kayla.
Yeah, and I think that's how you honor him, right? Is like by living life to the fullest and squeezing every little drop out of it. And I mean, he carried himself. He was a good man. So just continuing that legacy, and that's how you honor him. That's how you remember him. And I'll be doing the same. You guys are all in my prayers.
Thank you, Kayla. I really appreciate that. And once again, just want to thank you for opening your doors. And, as I remember him, you're a core memory of that. And so glad you allowed us to check something off our bucket list together.
anytime. You can have a bonfire with a real bonfire anytime you want.
I will definitely take you up on that. Not trying to jinx it now, but you have been on the show a few times before your fights. You are undefeated. So here we go. Guests on the show, undefeated. And
let's go, baby.
And that does it for another edition of the Bohnfire podcast. Before I let you guys go, I want to read one more message. Our good friend Simon Head, who Abbey worked with for many years, was a coworker at MMA Junkie for a period of time. He really wanted to be on the show, but some things came up. He could not make it, but he wanted to have a presence here. So I just want to read you guys some of the Instagram posts he put remembering Abbey. This is from Simon Head, and want to share it here. This Christmas, I lost one of my best friends, but in truth, Abbey Subhan was much more than that. He was my confidant, my personal cheerleader, and my biggest advocate in this crazy MMA space. I called him my wingman. He called me his road wife, a nod to the hours spent together on the road covering MMA. We first met properly in Krakow, Poland back in April 2015. And in the decade since then, we've traveled the world together covering this crazy sport during the boom period of the UFC. While we often covered the events for different outlets, we still worked in tandem and were side by side at press conferences, media scrums, and weigh-ins. When we both ended up working together at MMA Junkie and started covering European shows together is what we had both hoped for. We were a great team together, and we had an absolute blast on the road. Nobody had more fun than we did on our European travels, but nobody worked harder too. More often than not, we were the first show up and the last ones to leave, and the work carried when we got back to the hotel or Airbnb. They were long, at times arduous work days, but to be honest, they never really felt like work. They were more fun times, and the memories of the time spent on the road with Abbey will never leave me. When I reluctantly departed Junkie as a full-time job I couldn't afford to turn down at the time, the pair of us vowed that we would work together again under the same banner one day. We told ourselves we'd be playing the long game, confident that things would eventually come back around and we'd get to do what we love as a team again. Abbey always insisted that if we manifested it enough, it would eventually become a reality. Sadly, it never quite happened, but even though we weren't working for the same outlet, we still ran fight weeks together as a duo and always had each other's back. The last time I saw Abbey, I was waving to him from the Northern Line tube train offered a day after watching Progress Wrestling with him in London and my daughter. It was his first time there, and he was instantly hooked. We had already planned to go to a host of other shows in Camden this coming year. There were other plans too. We were already making early preparations for our annual fight week at UFC London in March, and had started talking about getting over to New York for the next Madison Square Garden show in November. Away from work, Abbey asked me if I could be his best man. It would have been an honor to have done that. My heart goes out to his family and his friends, so many of whom he met along the way during his time covering MMA. There's not a single person I can think of who had ever had a bad word to say about Abbey, and we will all miss him dearly. It's going to take a long time to process this. Abbey was a one-of-a-kind human being. If you knew him, you already knew that. I am so lucky to have known him, and our friendship will remain with me forever. R.I.P. Abbey. Rest easy, my friend. So I don't really know what more to add on that in terms of everything you guys have listened to for the past couple hours here. I think that once again sums up and echoes the sentiments from all these lovely people who joined the show. I cannot thank them enough for being here. This has been, cathartic, helpful. I know there's not a lot of energy in my voice, and I hope you guys have been bearing with me through this. If you're here still at this point at the end, I appreciate your viewership. I appreciate Petesy, Carroll, John Morgan, Ken Hathaway, Farah, Hannoun, Chamatkar, Sandhu, Oscar Willis, Simon Head for sending in that statement. Of course, Kayla Harrison as well. What more can you say than her words? He only met her one time and an impression was left. So this has been tough. I don't know how many more times I could say it. It remains true. Again, I miss you, Abbey. I love you. This will be in dedication to you. Hopefully anyone out there takes a little bit of peace. Anyone who didn't know him got to know him a little better and what's been missing. And tried to throw some MMA talk in there with you guys, and appreciate everyone bearing through that as well, especially the guests who, I asked to flip from a very emotional time to an insightful time. So I can't thank everyone enough for their time. And then to everyone who has donated to the GoFundMe so far, That includes the incredibly generous donations by the UFC, by Dana White, by Ariel Helwani, so many others, anyone big or small. You don't know what this means to the people around Abbey, his family in particular, just absolutely incredible and generous. And almost don't even know what to say about all that stuff. I'm in awe by the kindness of the people in this community. And I know I said earlier that, don't know what the future of the show is. I think after kind of going through all this stuff and reflecting and talking to all those people, it does only feel right to try to keep pushing. And as I said, this is much Abby's as it is mine. And I guess the best way to honor him would be to try to keep going, make this show as big as possible, try to get as many eyeballs and as many sponsors, and we continue to pay it forward and try to show support to Abby's family. So that's how I feel about things right now, but as time goes on, we will see. For now, appreciate everyone so much for being here. If you stuck through this point of the program, I'm grateful for you. Once again, grateful to everyone who has donated to the GoFundMe. You can continue to do so if you feel so inclined. And for now, till next time, see you all back here by the bonfire. Miss you, Abby. Love you. Thank you for everything you did for me.